Hi, hello, and welcome, stream, to another fantastic and very exciting stream. It's going to be a really fun one. 3.5 is over. We have played through it all. We have experienced peak once again, and we are here to discuss. We are here to recap. We are here to really just celebrate. I think is the word that I'm looking for. The continued success, I think, of the Amphoria story. The the planet seems to have really found its form. It seems to have found its momentum. I think going back a few story patches now. I'm not saying that 3.5 was the first time Amphoria was good. No, I think 3.5 is continuing, I think, what the part 1 patches set forth, the expectations that it set within the audience's minds, and it is continuing to succeed. It is continuing to perform. The Star Rail team is continuing to tell a very compelling narrative with a very compelling cast, and it was a really great time. And we're just here to talk about it. We're here to appreciate it, and we're here to just kind of theorize. We're here to recap and all that jazz. If you haven't experienced one of my story recap streams before, they're fairly casual. We don't really do anything besides just talk about what we like, talk about what maybe we didn't like as much, and obviously, like I said before, discuss the events that happened, any lore that was expanded upon, so on, so forth. So should be a good time. I'm not expecting it to be all too long. I'm expecting to have a good time with it. I think we're going to be going anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours today, depending on how I feel. But this one is going to be slightly different. So going forward for all of the Amphorius story recap streams, we will be, hey, Stevo, hope you're doing well, man. Happy to see you here. How's it going, man? Really happy to see you here. But we're gonna talk about Stevo. We're gonna talk about 3.5. Anything you want to talk about, I'm game. Anything, any theories you've got, any questions you've got, any ideas you've got, hit me with them. But like I was saying, um, so going forward for all of the Amphorius story patches that we have left, so we don't have that many left. We've got two of them left. We've got 3.6 and we've got 3.7, and then obviously we've got this one here today. We're going to be doing as I've written. So anything that we get as I've written going forward, we will be doing as soon as we finish the story patch. So that is different from what we did in part one. In part one, we basically saved all of the as I've written entries until we finished part one. So once we finished 3.4 with Finan and his storyline, we we went into as I've written, and we basically had two streams where we just kind of caught up to everything. It was a lot of fun. That said, we're not going to be doing that going forward. What we're going to be doing is going to be basically just reading the entries as they come to us as soon as we finish them. So that'll be a good time. That'll be hopefully, I think, a more efficient way to do things. So we're going to be doing that today. I have not looked at as I've written at all, so we'll take a look at it. We'll read through it, we'll have a good time with it, and then we will transition into the story recap, which will be the second half. I don't think the as I've written is going to take too long. It'll probably take like 30 minutes or so, give or take. So that's going to be what we're going to be doing. Any housekeeping items that we might have? We don't really have all that much actually. So the next stream is going to be a most likely return to Zenless because 3.4 wasn't exactly as packed at no, sorry. 3.5 wasn't exactly as packed as 3.4 was. It was packed, don't get me wrong. The story quest was a lot longer than I actually anticipated, but it wasn't, it didn't have the fake collab, it didn't have all these summons that we needed to do, right? It didn't have all these trailer reactions that were coming out all at the same time. Like it wasn't this giant bundle. It was a typical patch release. And so we've gotten through what I wanted to get through mostly, right? We've done the story, we've done our summons, and we're doing the story recap now. So I think we've pretty much covered everything that I want to cover. I know there's an event. I've said this many times before. The events I will do on my own time. They're some of the few content that I feel like isn't all that, you know, I'm looking for a word. It isn't all that deep, I guess, to present to an audience or to talk about. This content is still very fun. It's still very good, and obviously, this restaurant event that they've got with Cyrene that we accidentally started during our 3.5 story quest stream. That event seems to be with a little bit more substance. I think substance is the word I'm looking for. It that the event seems to have a little bit more substance. So that one's going to be fun, but I still think I'm going to do it on my own time. So but yeah, in terms of housekeeping items before we get started, so when can you expect the next stream? So the next stream is likely going to be early next week. So I'm going to be taking the rest of the weekend off, which is really just Sunday at this point, and I will be coming back early next week with more Zenless Zone Zero. And you might be surprised by this, but I'm fairly confident that the first stream back to Zenless is going to be a pretty exciting one. I'm currently deciding whether or not I want to do something, quote unquote, on Zenless. You probably might know what that might be, considering my gambling tendencies, but currently considering something that would be fun when we come back to Zenless. So that'll be early next week. In terms of other housekeeping items, there really is none. As I mentioned many times before, I am currently still in process of upgrading my stream, upgrading my sound quality, upgrading my visuals. What you see in front of me, my webcam is pretty solid, but it could be better. And just in general, outfitting my office, outfitting my background to be a little bit more stream present worthy. So once I feel like I've made upgrades necessary, once I feel like I've been able to take my stream to a higher quality, then I will then upgrade my account to a Twitch affiliate. So we have been invited to join the Twitch affiliate program. So yay, congratulations to me. Really good job, but I've never really cared about that. So that'll be a fun time, I think. It'll be the opportunity to implement a little bit more interactivity with the stream. So that'll be coming once I am content and proud enough with the quality of my stream to upgrade to affiliate. Because right now there's still a few things about my stream that I think, from a technical standpoint, I am not happy with. So working through that on my end, I'm checking out different prices for equipment. I'm checking out how that equipment is actually going to fit into my setup. Do I have the space necessary, etc., etc., etc. So that's housekeeping item number 2. So I think that's about it. So I think what we're going to do immediately, like I said, is, so this first part is going to be the as I've written walkthrough. So should be hopefully a little bit of extra content that we got from 3.5, and then we will transition to talking about the story, what we liked, what we didn't like, so on and so forth. And if anyone is in chat on Twitch, Stevo, if you're still there, if there's anyone that has any ideas, any questions, any theories, etc., feel free to post them in chat. I'm looking to just have a good time with this, to just talk and, really appreciate what the 3.5 story did for us. But okay, let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and activate audio quality for Star Rail, and we're going to transition to the overlay. We're here in game. Cyrene is still on the swing, by the way. She is currently negotiating with Vigus in a different world, but she's still here. She's still with us, and actually, we have a question mark here, so.
Hi, I'm so happy to see you. Are you here to play with me?
Are you sure it's all right to be idle? I'm gonna go with this. Is this swing yours? Interesting. I wonder if this is a leftover from. Ooh, wait, this is. I have not seen this one before. Always good to start off with some Cyrene. Never a bad thing. Oh, we went on a magical adventure indeed. You are currently not here. You are currently locked in another Harmony memory world with 3 geniuses just playing spectator, Cyrene. I miss you. I hope you come back soon. Stevo, my first thought after the big reveal, Xandar's 9 bodies will be reoccurring antagonists. You know what? At first, Stevo, I didn't think that was going to be the case. I was like, okay, I don't think we're going to get a lot of Lygus / Xandar post Inforius. But the more I thought about it more, I don't think he's going to be a direct antagonist, but I definitely think he's going to have an influence on the narrative, on the overall narrative. Like, he's going to be doing things behind the scenes. I feel like we'll hear about his, machinations, I suppose, if you're looking for a word to call it. I feel like we'll hear about his like planning and machinations in the background every once in a while. So because yeah, 9 bodies all working towards I think the same goal. That's a bit dangerous. So let's enter the grove of Cyrene. But no, yeah, I think Xander is definitely going to have a I think sustained presence in the narrative after Amphoria. So I guess is what both you and I are trying to say. I just think I don't know if he'll be a reoccurring antagonist. I think they're gonna with each planet introduce new antagonists that bring new ideas, a new presence to the overall conflict for Star Rail, right? We have to get into more Lord Ravagers. We have to start introducing Nook, right? So they are slowly expanding the individual planet narratives into feeding into the main overall story, which is going to be the conflict with Nanook. And then obviously the Stellaron Hunters are going to be right there with us. I really expect the Stellaron Hunters are going to have a much more formidable presence in 4.x. I think they're going to be pretty important in 4.x. I think Blade's definitely going to be one of them. And if I were a writer, I would Kafka next. So I would just do what they did with the Cianjo. I would bring in Blade. I would bring in Kafka.
Wanna hear a story? I've got so many.
Speaking of, as I've written
One
Cyrene, we're about to
But I
dive
have
into
one
that.
condition. You have to listen carefully, okay?
She's so small. I love her so she's so tiny. Stevo, just like Jing Liu plans to exploit Aeonic War to kill Yaoshi, Xander will plan to exploit it to kill Noose. Yeah, kind of. I think that's a good way to describe it. Like kind of the presence that Jing Liu has in the story. Like she's never directly in our faces, but she gets shown every once in a while, like in trailers or, in specific dialogue pieces, like, oh, Jing Liu still exists. She and Locha are still planning something. I think it's gonna be similar with Xander. Oh. I hope she comes back in 3.6. I will be very sad if we only got one story patch if she was like super relevant. Okay. Back to ID's Elysia, and we will start as I've written. Is she still here? Okay, she's still here for the most part. And look, I actually don't know if I've seen this one either. Ooh, shit. Hi. I want to do something. We could hang around. Oh, she lost something. Oh, this is a quest. Okay, well, I will be doing this later. A quest with Cyrene. Thank you very much. No, Cyrene, I'm sorry. Not right now. Also, stop navigation here. Okay, so. But yeah, Stevo, I think at first when I thought about it, I was like, no, I don't think Xander is gonna have a presence in the narrative post Amphorius. But now I think he will. Now I definitely think he will. I just don't. I think it's gonna be skill. So, because I think in the next planet that we go to, it's going to connect with the overall narrative more. Like I think the next planet that we go to is going to be more relevant to the conflict between the Trailblazer, the Astral Express, the Stellaron Hunters, and our allies, and then Nanook, right, and the Antimatter Legion. That said, I think the scope of the story is going to be smaller. I don't think 4.x is going to be quite as epic and expansive as the story of Amphorius has been, because the story of Amphorius has been crazy in scope. We basically went from Penacony, which was already a massive leap in narrative scope, to an even greater an even greater jump in narrative expansion. So They wouldn't do whole 9 bodies thing if he wasn't going to have some sort of presence. Exactly, right? The only way the only way they could kind of wrap this up neatly is if by the end of Inforius, by defeating Iron Tomb or by defeating Xander slash Lygus, his other 8 bodies shut down. Like, like defeating his like Lygus body in turn would shut down the other bodies, right? So that would be the way they would do it if they wanted to end it cleanly, which they could if they wanted to. I think either way works. But if I were the Star Rail writing team, I probably wouldn't do that. I would keep him in the background if I ever needed him. So, but honestly, at the same time, I think having Xander out there with 8 bodies would be a lot. Like, I think it would be difficult to ignore him in the story. So maybe they reduce the number of bodies. You know what would be cool actually. What I would like is by the end of Inforius, if all of Xander slash Lygus were to be destroyed except Lygus, right? I think if we succeed in our conflict against Iron Tomb and Xander, and Xander then in turn has consequences for his defeat, I think a good consequence would be him losing every single extension of himself besides the Lygus body that we've grown to know and hate. To I was not gonna say know and love, know and hate, hate lovingly, of course, but you know what I mean. So, all right, let's jump into As I've Written. We will be talking about Lygus extensively later. We're gonna have a lot to talk about. So, okay, so we've got new ChangeMe13.exe, and for those of you who don't know why it called this ChangeMe13, one of my, I think Estevo, it might have been you, it might have been Suki, it might have been Hollowed Sage, I'm not quite sure, but someone in my chat at one point brought up that this Greek letter in the alphabet is actually delta. I believe it's delta. It's a lowercase delta, and delta has a double meaning. It could also mean change, which to me, Change Me 13 makes a lot of sense for a name for the scepter. I think that makes a lot of sense because you've got the 13 core flames, you've got Change Me, he's trying to become Ayatum. So I always call the name of the scepter ChangeMe13.exe. That's the name that I use. But technically you could also just call it Delta Me13.exe. That's fine as well. So we've got some new Change Me 13 entries. So that'll be fun to read. Oh, doesn't look like we have that many. So we've got a couple. So you know what? Why don't we start with this? Why don't we start with this? So Scepter Change Me 13. Scepter Change Me 13. An astral computer, the simulated world of Inforius runs on this device in continuous cycles. Unlike other scepters, it is the earliest prototype and once served as a celestial body. Neuron for News, the erudition, it was later discarded. Glimpsed by the destruction during its endless computation, it transcended and became a Lord Ravager. Yeah, this is the update to the entry right here, this middle sentence right here, which was a pretty big reveal. They revealed this in the story right before they revealed, who Lygus really was, and I was like, what the fuck? That is a big reveal to just drop very casually. But yeah, it makes sense that the scepter was a unique, special scepter, because I think it would have made less sense if it was just a random scepter that just got glimpsed at by Nanook after Lygus, manipulated it to be focused on the destruction, right? Having it once be a part of Noose and his physical celestial body makes sense for why the scepter is capable of a bit more, why it's been more influential, more special than maybe some of the other scepters out there in the galaxy, in the universe. And I think my stream manager's crashed, so that is amazing. Is my stream good? Oh my god. Did my computer just crash? Okay, that is fantastic. Well, I know my webcam just crashed, that's for damn sure. But it looks like my mic is still working. If I go, let me go to my chatting screen. I can't go to my chatting screen. That's cool. All right. So I think I black screened for a moment there, so that is unfortunate. For me, all is well. Interesting. For me, all is not well. So let me go back to Star Rail here, and let me take a look at what is going on and see if I can fix this without having to restart OBS, because I would prefer not to restart OBS. But it does look like my stream is continuing to be okay. You guys can see my background here. If I go back to chatting, does Twitch switch to chatting? Scuff stream. Scuff stream. Okay, it does. Interesting. So I think we're good. I think what I'll do is, even though OBS is kind of frozen for me, I will just transition between OBS and between Twitch to kind of check the status of my stream. Hopefully, I can manage it that way. Should be pretty simple. I don't think it's going to be too difficult. So we'll stay on chatting here really quick because my Star Rail did crash. So I will bring up Star Rail once again. We will get back into As I've Written. But as I go into As I've Written and open up Star Rail again, I can kind of talk through the scepter stuff a bit more. But yeah, I think the Change Me 13 Scepter being a former part of Noose and his celestial body makes a lot of sense to me. I think it gives it a reason for why it's able to do what it's able to do beyond what another scepter would be able to do. So all right, we're in game once again. I can't see anything in OBS, but I should be able to. Yep. All right, we're back. We're good. I don't think we have to restart stream. Okay. A little bit of a momentary interruption there, but we are back into As I've Written. So, yeah. Very big reveal that was dropped very casually, and I think it was kind of a lead up into the Zandar reveal that enhanced that moment very well. It definitely added to the climax. Now the big entry here, Lygus. Assuming the mental of Theoros, his real name is Zandar Juan Kuwabara, administrator and prime mover of the Amphorius experiment. Walks the path of erudition, yet seeks to forge the destruction. Historical data detected, syncing, sync complete. Society ID recognized, scepter system access granted. Welcome, Enteleki. So, a lot of this from before, I believe, was just not here in the entry, or was blanked out. Like, there was the text was still there, but it was completely unreadable. So now we know that Lygus' real identity that we've been wondering for about 2 to 3 story patches now. When was he introduced in 3.2 or 3.1? I think it was 3.2. Pretty sure it was 3.2. So yeah, 3 story patches now. Blanked out IRC. Oh, are you talking about yourself, Stevo? I thought you were talking about stream, because I think stream still looks good. Yeah, blanked out. Okay, gotcha. Oh no, you're talking about the text. My bad. I'm just like so focused on making sure the stream is okay because OBS is frozen for me, so it's more difficult to manage. But yeah, it was blanked out, and now obviously all of the entries have been revealed. So I think they made such a good choice on who they decided to make Xandar's real identity, or I guess Lygus' real identity, being the first genius. Because a lot of people, including myself, were saying it's probably Rupert III, right? For those of you who don't know Star Rail lore, Rupert the First and Rupert II were these massively influential figures in Star Rail lore that essentially led and started what they refer to as the anti-organic equation / anti-organic war, which was basically, long story short, to put it into simple terms, robots versus non-robots, intelligent life form, biological life form. And the destruction caused by the anti-organic equation and the war was so great that it was actually one of the main reasons why Nanook became an Eon. So Rupert the First and Rupert the II were extremely destructive, extremely influential natures in Star Rail lore, and here's a catch. They were geniuses. At the very least, I know Rupert II, I believe, was a genius. Rupert the First, I think, was also a genius as well, and I think they just shared the mantle. But so they were geniuses. So a lot of people, including myself, thought, okay, you know, here is this Intellitron, this Lygus character who is introduced out of nowhere seemingly. He is being built up to be very important. He's being built up to be, very influential to the overall Star Rail lore and the overall Amphorius story. And who could he be? Well, early on, I think a lot of us theorized that he was a genius society member. And so we were thinking, okay, well, who could he be, right? And so because he was a robot, because he seemed so hell bent on destruction, a lot of people thought Rupert III. He was the next coming of Rupert, and that we were going to bring back that piece of Star Rail lore. That didn't end up being the case, and I think I'm kind of happy it didn't, because I think a lot of us, including the Star Rail story itself, thought that would have been a bit boring, right? I think Rupert III isn't an impossible thing that you can bring back into the main story, right? Because having just Rupert the First, Rupert the Second, usually you want to do things in threes, right? The rule of three. But I think for Amphorius, Rupert III would have been a bit of a weaker narrative choice. So then you start thinking about who else it could be, right? You've got, the geniuses that we know, Skrillum and Herda, probably not them. You've got some of the geniuses that we know in lore, like Polka and Acha, the one that they introduced in this story. And none of them made all too much sense. Now, I did think at one point before I played 3.5 that it could have been Zandar, but I didn't really research or investigate that theory further than just it initially being in my head. When I started to play 3.5 about halfway through with, people in my chat like Stevo, like Suki, like Goldston, and as we started to talk through about Lygus a bit more, I started to think, wait, yeah, it probably could be Zandar. And if it is Zandar, that would be really cool, because I think it's a very compelling and interesting narrative choice to make, this character who is so hell-bent on destroying Noose and just standing against everything that Noose stands for him to be the creator of Noose. Because Zandar was not necessarily the creator of Noose, but Xandar's actions led to Noose's creation. And so him kind of seeing his act as a mistake and wanting to correct his mistake, yet at the same time being so misguided, going about it in such wrong ways, is very interesting, especially because he's not human anymore. Zandar was human. He then took his consciousness, he coded it using the algebraic equations that he was very talented in, and he basically created 9 bodies for himself. I think it was such a good narrative decision. Stevo, no, Zandar very explicitly built Noose. Really? Okay, so incorrect. Thank you, Stevo. So Zandar very explicitly just constructed Noose. Okay, good to know. So even more so than before, Zandar obviously felt like he made a massive mistake, because if you really go and you research Noose, Noose is a very, very negative eon for humanity. Noose essentially forces humanity into predetermined points in destiny or fate or in time. Hey, Shy, greetings, my friend. Happy to see you here. How's it going? It's the story recap stream for 3.5. We're having a good time. We're just trying to enjoy it as much as we can. Just appreciating what happened and such. So, but yeah, it is a really cool, I think, narrative choice to make Lygus Zandar. I think they made the best choice possible with the geniuses that we knew, and I think having him be a genius that was unknown, I think would have been also not as powerful a story choice that they made. So, okay, let's see what else we got. I'm sure we'll talk about Lygus more later, so don't worry. The Ultimate Protocol. Change Me 13's autonomous protocol, whereby experiment processes, administrator commands, and external access are all restricted. To increase the iteration rate, factors have been granted permissions from the internal embedded protocol. The decision logic of specific electrical signals will be converted into protocol content to assist the scepter in optimizing the experiment structure. Annotation: in the 19,522,113th cycle, to achieve dominance, Namau 3320 utilized a protocol to eliminate other factors from extrapolation. Yo, that is pretty cool. This behavior aligns with the tendency of destruction and should be marked as a default value for embedded behavior to be applied in subsequent cycles. Very cool. So yeah, the Ultimate Protocol got a little bit more attention in 3.5, but it is essentially the way the Scepter and obviously Lycus's manipulations towards the Scepter, his commands, um, are managed. You know, how the cycles within the Scepter are created, how they are, you know, supervised and such. Shy, it's going all right. How are you? It's going all right for me as well, Shy. It was a rough week at work, but the story was really great, and I'm having a great time kind of thinking about it, right? Running the narrative ideas through my head, theorizing, and now it's the weekend, and I'm able to relax and sleep in just a little bit. Definitely slept in today, and so I'm feeling good. Stevo, by creating new Xander is also responsible for the birth of Enigmata. Yes, Stevo, I was thinking about that as well, because the Enigmata, well, the path of Enigmatic, and specifically Mythos, the Eon of Enigmata. No, it's not Mythos, right? It's Mythos, right? It's Mythus, right? That's how you spell it. Mythos was created essentially to combat Nous, because before the Enigmata existed, essentially all of fate and all of time and all of history was predetermined by Nous's calculations. So literally a entire path was created in order to bring a balance to the universe. So Xander is, like, kind of in a way, if you stretch it, responsible for the creation and birth of two eons. It's pretty crazy stuff. Shy, eon of spreading misinformation. Exactly. And by spreading misinformation and by manipulating history, you create variance in time and you create variance in destiny. That's why the Enigmata is here in the galaxy. Oh, we get a little bit more here as well. Fantastic. So this is Finan. Nakos 496, track world bearer Prima Mobile hatred. Note, intracognition is null, responds only to destructive stimuli. Its hatred drew the gaze of Nanook upon its individual being, proving it as having already become the most perfect factor of destruction. However, it refused to complete the Era Nova. Through resetting the experiment, it transferred its memories and core flames to its next self, thus creating the eternal recurrence to ensure Iron Tomb would never hatch from Euphorius. At the end of the 33,550,336 recursive loop, it attempted to destroy itself through destruction to create a logical vulnerability in the world-bearing track. It has now been merged by Iron Tomb. Due to an impact on the Septus core layer, the black tide phenomenon in the simulated world has greatly reduced. Yes, this is some crazy stuff. This last line is the most important line, I think, out of this new entry. What this is basically saying, and we saw this in 3.5 as well, the black tide isn't as much of a threat to Amphoris anymore. And you kind of saw this, right? Even though the time point that we were in 3.5 was earlier to where, you know, we didn't get to see the events that we went through in part 1 of Amphoris, things were a bit more relaxed. They weren't as tense until Lygus was introduced as a obstacle, as a villain for the Chrysos heirs to combat, right? Before Lygus was introduced in 3.5 to the Chrysos heirs, things seemed to be growing pretty well, right? And I think a lot of it is Finan's ability to hold back the black tide, right? So if it wasn't for Lygus having to intervene directly, I think the Flame Chase journey would have been successful, and I think it would have been much less painful, much less dramatic than it was in part 1. So thank you, Finan. Thank you very much. I'm gonna get a quick drink of water. Ooh, my water is not nearby. That's fine. I'll grab it here in a bit. I think once we finish... Oh, sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Once we finish, as I've written, we will take a bit of a break. I'll go get my water and continue. Philia 093, track time, Primo Mobile, blank. So still not a lot on Cyrene. Once it briefly appeared In the Forgotten Years, current whereabouts are unknown. Unfortunately. Hopefully she comes back soon. Okay, Hubris 504. Track La Prima Mobile Dominance Note performs continuous calculations for a single purpose. Its decisions are strongly guided by externalities. This electrical signal possesses high stability and can execute decisions in an efficient manner. Its behavioral pattern aligns with the establishment, expansion, destabilization, and collapse of principles of order and applies to the vast majority of intelligent civilizations. Yeah, I think most of us, if not all of us, pretty quickly pegged Seridra to be, following the path of order. I think that was the most obvious kind of like connection between a Chrysos heir and a Star Rail path. So, but yeah, Seridra, definitely a very complex character. We'll get into her a bit more later. And I think a big reason for that was the fact that she was so focused on, the Amphorius kind of destiny and fate, but not from the perspective of the Flame Chase journey, but from the perspective of like their role in the universe, their role in Lygas's manipulations, like what could she steer Amphorius towards, right? That wasn't relevant to the Flame Chase journey at all. I guess what I'm trying to say is Seridra was much more I guess ambitious, but I don't think she is very ambitious, but that's not the word I'm looking for. I'm sure it'll come to me later. Aporia 432. Track Ocean Prima Mobile Self Negation. Note internal world missing avoidance and effective decision. Hey, come on. Come on, guys. The preset ecological environment successfully influenced the computational logic of this electrical signal, aligning with the model where life chooses self-destruction to avoid nihility. In most dead loop processes, its behavioral pattern is highly coupled with other electrical signals. Ooh, that last line is pretty interesting. Yeah, Shy, they had to put that line in here. But yeah, that last line is pretty interesting. Okay, so Heislands is almost not destined, but often she is combined with other Chrysos heirs and other factors of destruction. That's pretty cool. But yeah, obviously we'll also talk about Heislands later down the line, but I think most of us also kind of pegged her to be connected to the nihility, that was going to be her path that the Chrysos heir was attached to. Polymos 600. Track Strife Prima Mobile Restraint. Note preset external environments and its internal world are always in opposition. An electrical signal generated from conflict behavior, it gradually becomes the constraining subject within the cycle. This contradiction bears a strong resemblance to the Hunt and is likewise destined for self-annihilation. Influenced by data abandoned by Epia Kea 216, there is a certain probability it will restart after computation terminates. So this is mighty, because the track is Strife. But I'm surprised that some of this data entry is what it is. Like self restart after computation terminates. That's pretty interesting. Destined for self-annihilation. Could that be referring to how Mighty always essentially fights against this great evil and is always trying to, kind of take things on his own because he is immortal? Okay, interesting data entry. Kalos 618. Track Romance Prima Mobile Temperance. Note highly self-repressed with external demands as the sole priority solution. A mutated electrical signal. Its decision logic is anchored by highly altruistic behavior. In this process, its survival priority gradually decreases, transforming into self-sacrifice that aligns with the beauty. It also possesses a strong affinity for other electrical signals. Oh my god, this might be my favorite data entry. Holy shit. Man, I love Aglaya so much. Aglaya is such a fantastic character. She was fantastic again in 3.5, and this data entry is great. I love this a lot. Shy, he is destined to be destroyed eventually. Mighty, I guess, yeah. Like in every cycle, he is destined to, you know, be subject to either the Black Tide or Lygus or some sort of conflict. Alright, good stuff. The Forgotten Years. Records that are completely missing from Change Me 13's logs, presenting as blank spaces in Amphorius' history and never turning readable, that's right. These anomalies recur sporadically and randomly across recurrences and show signs of increase. Okay, so some of the blank here has been exposed. Invading variable March 7th, Philia 093, Evernight. Stevo, wait, I think it's actually the first time we have indication of what beauty is partially about. You're kind of right there, Stevo. If we go back to her entry. Yeah, kind of connecting beauty to self-sacrifice, and also probably this last line here, kind of like the beauty having kind of a love or affinity for the other paths. I think what it's trying to say, what I read here is the path of the beauty is the path of love, the path of care, the path of, consideration for life and other, existence, which would make sense. So I kind of thought that beauty was already heading in that direction. When you look at Argenti and how optimistic he is and how caring and loving he is, you kind of get the sense that, that's what the path of beauty is about, right? It's not the pursuit of actual physical beauty. I think it's the pursuit of love and the pursuit of optimism. So, which for Aglaya makes a lot of sense. Even while she was basically emotionless and having been reduced to a shell by the core flame, Aglaya still very clearly cared about all of the Chrysos heirs. Yeah, this is really cool, showing that Cyrene and March are very slowly tampering with Iron Tomb and the Scepter and making a difference. Cool stuff. Shy, the path of beauty is to find the beauty in all things. Right, exactly. Oh, hell yeah. Trailblazer, a nameless from the Ashel Express, an external variable that accidentally entered the recursive loop. Also a pathstrider of the destruction, they resonated with the 12 factors in the 33,550,336 recursive cycle. This entity assumed the vacant time track and successfully guided NACO's 496 beyond the intelligence singularity. That's right. And the 33,550,337th recursive cycle, this entity assumed the vacant world-bearing track. Also right. Basically, we were time, and then Cyrene happened, and now we are the deliverer. Executing override command granted access to the Trailblazer. I'll be waiting for you in the past. So this is, I think Cyrene. I think this is Cyrene giving us this ability, because she says I'll be waiting for you in the past. So, but yeah, basically just recapping, I think what most of us already knew, the fact that Finan was able to become real. He went beyond the intelligence singularity. The fact that we then took on his mantle as the deliverer, and through, the power of the remembrance, we were then able to manipulate time with the help of Cyrene and maybe even March, and we went back in time, and now we are continuing the last cycle essentially, but we did reset once again, but we are continuing the cycles, this time in place of Finan as the deliverer. March 7th and blank. I wonder what that blank could possibly mean. Blank, 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 an external variable that accidentally entered the recursive loop. Blank, 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 time, blank, 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 Titan, blank, 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 in the 33,550,337th recursive cycle Blank assumed the vacant blank track blank. Ooh. um so yeah, I think like most of us anticipated March was going to be a Crisis Heir, or at the very least, Evernight was going to be a Crisis Heir. What I assume this means is that because we, the Trailblazer, took on the mantle of the Deliverer instead of, being the Crisis Heir of Time, I think March is going to be now the Crisis Heir of Time. I think it's going to be what she is attached to, and that's the Crisis Heir that she then becomes, right? Because we can't, I think it'd be kind of weird for us to do both. If we both had the authority of time and world bearing, that feels a bit weird. So I think someone has to take our place, and I think it's going to be March. Dan Hong, a nameless from the Astral Express, a scion of permanence, an external variable that accidentally entered the recursive loop. Directive pinpoints his location, failed to locate his coordinates. Conclusion: subject has exited Amphorius. Negative: target detected. Signal source unknown. Conclusion error. Yep, this motherfucker is about to become a Crisis Heir as well. March, Hung, and the Trailblazer are all going to become Crisis Heirs. Shy, it makes sense once we became World Bearer, time became vacant, and March/Evernight took it up. Exactly. I think I'd be very surprised if that isn't what happens in 3.6. So I think the three main Astral Express members are going to become Crisis Heirs. It makes a lot of sense to me. Herda and Skrullum, Genius Society members. ID Herda with a capital A. ID Screw with a capital W. High risk external variables. Warning: abnormal instruction detected. Content: roll back 13. Change me 13. Extrapolation progress. Based on the ultimate protocol, the abnormal instruction has rejected. Instruction: mark Herda and Screw as malicious visitors. Note: just you wait. I, Herda, will definitely return and retire both you and this cold, heartless metal. Blank. Protocol updated. Visitor instructions authorized. Calculation logic updated. After Era Nova, extrapolation progress will be rolled back to 96.75%. So this is what they were talking about earlier in 3.5, that Herda and Skrullum were able to slowly roll back Iron Tomb's progress. They bought us a little bit more time, and obviously they have the influence to seemingly make data entries of their own. So pretty cool stuff. Shy, it also makes sense for Dan Hung to be Earth because permanence is the quality to be long lasting, which the Earth is. Yes, absolutely. I think, honestly, even before, right, we got the leaks that Dan Hung was going to have an SP form, a lot of us thought that Dan Hung was going to be Terrabox. I think that was pretty clearly a popular theory early on in Amphorius. Holy shit. Wow. Okay. These are new entries, right? So these are new folders. This is where the folder used to stop before. So these are brand new folders that we've never gotten before. Observational record of electronic signals hostile behaviors. Hubris 504. In Light Calendar 3960, Ceredra fused with the Ultimate Protocol and submitted an internal command. Marking ID: Lycos S as a malicious visitor, and freezing approximately 60% of special permissions for ID Lycos S. According to the Administrator Security Protocol, Lycos S's self-defense permissions were retained, and the remaining frozen permissions were gradually restored. Subsequently, Ceredra rewrote the Ultimate Protocol to temporarily grant access to permissions to Herda and Screw at the cost of ceasing to respond itself. Holy shit, so the rule that she manipulated was basically what allowed Herta and Screwlum to come into Amphorius and do what they did in 3.5, as well as holding Lygus back. So this is the rule that wasn't revealed to us, I think. Or maybe this was just something that she did and the rule that she changes later down the line. But I feel like this first paragraph is a pretty big rule change. I mean, trying to manipulate with the administrator's access as a line of code is pretty insane. So, Saradra Godin. Scopio 365. Terravox did not engage in any hostile actions. This entity could not be located after Light Calendar 3961. I wonder why. Kalos 618. In Light Calendar 4029, Aglaya engaged in a direct conflict with Lycos S, but the attack proved futile. In the final stage of Aglaya's life, the weighting of survival within its decision-making process approached zero. Aglaya, you absolute queen, you absolute girl boss. Bro, to me, this moment in 3.5 is honestly where I was the most angry. It was this and Lygus roasting Cyrene and demeaning Cyrene. Those two moments in 3.5 really got to me emotionally. I was a wee bit perturbed, as they say. Shy, restricting the admin and giving Herta/Screwy permissions to prevent the administrator further is pretty sick. Absolutely. Keep in mind, these are still, like Lygus said, essentially just the lines of code. For a line of code to essentially, like, if we were to kind of, like, in the past, we used the analogy for Finan. For Finan, what he essentially did was that he was a line of code that through sheer willpower became real and proceeded to scratch not the person who was doing the coding, but the god of the person doing the coding. That is how insane Finan's feat was in 3.4. What Saradra did here was essentially kind of similar, not quite as impressive, but still extremely impressive. What she did was basically, as a line of code, she basically tied a rope around the coder. Like, she tied the hands of the coder down. Like, imagine putting the coder into handcuffs, right? And then she brought in 2 other coders that would potentially hold the coder back even further. That's at least the way I would describe it, using the same analogy. So Saradra, really impressive stuff. Epia Kea 216. Castris launched multiple frontal attacks against Lycos S. Well, I keep calling it Lycos S. Lycos S. Should I call it Lycos or Lyco S? I'm going to call it Lycos. It attempted to use collision detection to make Lycos cease to respond, but to no avail. In Light Calendar 4123, Castris ascended to Demigod. Its mobility permissions were removed and became fused with coordinate Netherrealm. So yeah, seemingly in 3.5, Castris, after Aglaya's death, took on the mantle of leadership of the Chrysos heirs. That's the way I interpret it. So yeah, Castris, goated as well. Shy, Lycos because Herta is Herta and Screwlum is Screw. Yeah, I agree. Haplotus 405. Tribio submitted multiple internal commands to create new coordinate pathways, causing its multi-track calculations to gradually become paralyzed. In Light Calendar 4123, Tribios created a pathway connecting coordinate Styxia and coordinate vortex of Genesis, consuming massive computational power. Tribios completely stopped responding in Light Calendar 4295. Yeah, I figured that was the case. I figured that Tribi had to sacrifice herself in order to create a path to the vortex of Genesis in Styxia. But again, dope stuff. I mean, each one of the Chrysos heirs was able to do some extremely impressive things in order to fight against Lygus. Polymos 600 Mighty Most launched multiple frontal attacks against Lycos. This entity possessed incomplete restart permissions. In light calendar year 4284, Herda and Screw's access permissions expired. Simultaneously, Lycos' special permissions were restored to approximately 60%. Uh-oh. Being pressured, Mighty Most decided to sacrifice itself, uninstalling its cognitive module through a ceremony, copying its own data, and prompting its permissions to unconditional and infinite restart. Its future actions were permanently set to continuous neutralization of ID Lycos. So this is basically in 3.5 where Mighty Most, or Mighty, I guess, this time he created his own immortality, right? In the original cycle, right? In the original Eternal Recurrence, the one in part 1, Mighty Most was immortal not by his own choice. This time, he chose to become immortal, chose to continuously revive himself in order to always be able to combat Lygus and Amphorius. Again, absolute goated stuff. This is really, really crazy stuff. Orixis 945. In this loop, Cyphera's instinct-based calculation logic has changed. Salvation weighed heavily in its decision-making. In Light Calendar 4534, Cyphera inserted a sourceless command. Coordinate Vortex of Genesis equals coordinate Akama, guiding ID Lycos S to the battlefield. After the command took effect, Lycos forced Cyphera to cease responding. Again, what we saw in 3.5, Cypher, together with Anaxa, was able to imprison and trap Lygus. Crazy stuff, once again. Shy, when he turned into Nikador and went mad, choosing to always go after Lygus. Did he turn into Nikador? Oh, no, he did, right? So yeah, he was immortal, but he also was just essentially a Titan. But yeah, I mean, every single one of the Crisis heirs had this insane just feat that they sacrificed a lot for, that they were able to chain all of these crazy things that they did together in order to buy enough time for the Trailblazer to come back. Schema 720. No direct attacks from Anaxagoras were detected. It is suspected to have taken other actions. In Light Calendar 4534, Anaxagoras transmuted itself into a high-density data fusion entity, submitting multiple targeted commands via an internal hacking program, with some taking effect. Lycos' mobility permissions were removed. After directives took effect, Anaxagoras can no longer be located. Okay, interesting. So it's this time it's not that he stopped responding, it's that he couldn't be located. Okay, that's interesting. That's a bit different from, like, say, they ceased to respond. But yeah, basically, Cypher brought Lygus to where they wanted to trap him, and Anaxagoras actually did the trapping. Pretty self-explanatory. Aporia 432. Electra had launched multiple attacks against Lycos S, but with minimal success. In Light Calendar 3960, Electra became a demigod. Its mobility permissions were removed, and it was fused into coordinate Styxia. After Light Calendar 4534, Electra continuously submitted internal commands to uninstall ID Lycos' cognitive module. These commands violated the administrator security protocols and were denied. Not long after, Electra's calculation pathway was overloaded and it entered dormancy. Yeah, this is basically the main point of Hycelence's journey in 3.5 in the second half was her doing everything possible for 1,000 years to keep Lygus distracted, to keep him imprisoned. They didn't want Lygus to figure out a way to break out of his imprisonment, right? So Hycelens basically continuously, and failed continuously, but continuously tried to keep Lygus's cognitive module also trapped, but failed, but because she was such a distraction, she was able to buy enough time for Trailblazer to come back. Am I missing one? Oh, I am missing one. Elios 252 and like calendar 4510. Hiya, Cynthia! Ascended to demigod status but refused to uninstall mobility permissions. Quote unquote protection held the greatest weight in its action logic, compelling it to remain on the ground to care for other human individuals. All normal humans in Euphoria seized life functions in Light Calendar 4602. Hyacinthea's cognitive module was severely deteriorated, and it was forced to relinquish its mobility permissions and fuse itself into coordinate Eye of Twilight. Absolutely goated. Hyacinth continuing to be just an amazing individual, so caring, kind, and considerate. I love Hyacinth. Shy, damn, Hyacinth to go. Yeah, Hyacinth is just like all the other Crisis eras always have like this like one like small flaw. Hyacinth is just this absolute angel. Like she is a static character, but she is the perfect example of what a static character should be. So likable, so loving, so just she's flawless, but she's flawless in all the right ways. Yes, Shy. I love her as well. Now we get into some errors. Error, no administrator response. Multiple anomalies were recorded after the system self-check. No response received after feedback to administrator ID Lycos. Record 01. Unknown unit blank. Retrieval anomaly coordinate Grove of Epiphany. Blank initiating priority scan. Hypothesis. Unknown unit possess unauthorized access blank. Warning, related records undergoing unauthorized deletion. ID Lycos has been warned. Administrator not responding. Unknown unit untraceable. No anomalies detected by the system. Is this March? Is this or Evernight? Is this Evernight or March? Or could it be Seradra? Because Grove of Epiphany, right? That was the banquet. Stevo, in first half, everyone was saying Finan was without flaw whilst Hyacinth really was. On Stevo, well said. Actually true. Like, Finan is without flaw as a Crisis heir, I suppose, just from a biological perspective. But from a humanity perspective, from a ethical, emotional perspective, Hyacinth is just, she is peak. That's what I'm thinking, Stevo. That's what I was thinking. It's Evernight's intervention into Grove, making Cyrene, and to a certain extent, it could also be, her rescuing the Trailblazer from the Exomyth. It could be that as well. But yeah, I'm guessing that's what it is. 1000%. Record 0 true. Variable Trailblazer loaded abnormally. ID Lycos has been notified. Administrator not responding. So no, I think this is Evernight. This is Evernight rescuing Cyrene from the Grove. This is Evernight basically again rescuing the Trailblazer from the Exomyth. Record 03. Malicious visitor Herda and Screw abnormally loaded, initiating expulsion. Ultimate Protocol shows an iteration outside of records. The protocol has been reloaded. Visitors Herda and Screw obtained authorization. Authorization synced with ID Lycos. Administrator not responding. Yep. We've got two geniuses on our side against one. Record 04. External command detected. Source Herda Screw. Content overwrite the logic of Evernova 33,550,337th recursive loop. The logic of Evernova has been overwritten according to external command. This command may interfere with the system's calculation progress. ID Lycos has been warned multiple times. Administrator not responding. Yes! We have started the loop once again, and we have a chance once again to stop Iron Tube. Progress has been brought back to 96.75% approximately, thanks to Herda and Skrulum. And the only reason Herda and Skrulum were able to do what they needed to do was because of Seredra. Let's keep that in mind. So again, Seredra goaded. And the only reason the administrator wasn't responding to any of these incidents was because of literally every single other Chrysos heir. Amazing stuff. It is just this entire cast of characters that have been built up, and we love them so much in part 1, and now they are using everything they have at their disposal to combat this one single person, and they were successful. Absolutely go to stuff. Okay, we've got one other thing here. After witnessing Amphorius' adventure, insert the one nameless recollection you obtained. Let's load. Okay, so this is... Okay, I was wondering why we didn't have anything here. Perfect. Okay, what do we want to start with here? So we've got only really one new entry here. Oh shit, my bad. I'm guessing we have one new entry here. Yeah, one new entry here. Can I go back without having to go back to... Oh shit. Okay. Well, let's do it again. So one new entry there. I'm guessing one new entry here. And I'm thinking maybe potentially 2 entries for Seredra. Okay, only one new entry still. Okay, interesting. Oh, 3 new entries? Oh, that's right. I have to unlock them. I'm stupid. Okay, we'll do the same thing that we did before. We will go in release order. So we'll start with Heislands, then we'll go into Seredra, then we'll go into Evernight, and then we'll go into Terravox, is what we'll call him for now. But we all know who he really is. Before I jump into this, I'm going to be right back, guys. I'm not even going to switch to the BRB screen. I'm just going to get my water bottle. Be right back. Shouldn't be too long. Water bottle obtained. All right. Nice to get my throat my throat some water. Oh, what is going on with my hair? Has my hair looked like this whole time? Holy shit. Hold on. It's because OBS is frozen and I have it open still. There we go. No. I have to use Twitch and it's like behind for me. Okay. Well, doesn't matter how bad I look because all the characters on screen are beautiful. Okay, well, we'll go through, like I said, Heislands, Seredra, Evernight, Terravox.
When entering the Flame Chase's currents for the first time, all the Swordmaster saw were colorful fish. She had already experienced the Imperator's dangerous games. She had long grown used to the giant beast's silent face. Carminum's charms and Helcalithist's gentleness warmed her like a
Helcalithist. Okay.
But as for Gorse missed his throne,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're getting into Seredra's commanders here.
he was sometimes at a loss. Occasionally, the Swordmaster would sink into hesitation, and even that messenger of fate could not get her to laugh. Till one day, a golden trout's bubbles floated into her gloomy waters. In that holy city where golden figs grew, the messenger of fate led to her a maiden dressed in glamorous gowns.
Aglaya?
What kind of clothes
girl snickered behind her hand, while the messenger pulled
God,
her
Aglaya was so amazing when she was young.
Such hubris, delicate fish.
Oh.
You never believe there's food on your face.
The messenger's eyes opened wide.
This is amazing.
Been snacking behind my back again.
Yeah, we were supposed to be on diet together.
Exposing me like this. I'll get my revenge.
The girl ran away in a
And what do you mean exposing you like that, bro? You had food on your face. It's
Sword
obvious.
Master smiled, and before she knew it, her hesitation was gone.
Oh, they were such good friends.
After that first meeting, the richly dressed girl often came in greeting.
So, you really came from the Sea of Souls? Do all the children of the ocean dress funny like this?
The
Yes.
Swordmaster did not chase the girl away, but also did not respond. So the girl
She just started feeling her up
meticulously
for her
measured the
sizes.
Swordmaster's torso all around.
You can't be seen like this. I'll send you a new dress.
Some
God.
days later, the Swordmaster appeared in finery at a ball. All were awed by her splendor, with only the Imperator thinking in wonder.
How rare to see you like this. Oh, so lonely, Gladius.
Aw. Saraja really cared about
Swordmaster's
Hyacinth.
wardrobe grew full, and people praised Akima's Gold Weaver for her cheerfulness and splendid skill. But only the Swordmaster noticed that the smile on the girl's
No,
gradually faded as the flames
I know, but it's still so painful just to hear it.
The calamity of lands asunder added to the girl's weariness. The battle of the grove robbed the light from the girl's eyes. Yet another feast arrived where the Gold Weaver was absent.
Aglaya went through so
Swordmaster
much,
donned
man.
The most majestic garments, and gently
She was the Chrysos heir that survived the longest in most of the cycles, and so she had to have
the singing
endured
voice
the
of
longest.
Dutch Gladior hailed the prelude of the feast. Guests clamored and cups clinked, and only the Gold Weaver had no thoughts of enjoying the ambrosia.
It's okay.
Who would have thought? I've sunk so low that I need you to comfort me.
She gave a bitter chuckle next to the bonfire.
You were as gloomy as the bedrock of the ocean when we first met.
The Swordmaster held a tall chalice containing
Aw.
liquid pure, reflecting their two faces.
I remember you were once curious about the stories under the sea. Then allow
God,
me
they were so close, weren't they?
to reveal the past.
No wonder Aglaya and Cypher were so devastated at 3.3 when they talked about 3.3. Yeah, 3.3. No wonder Aglaya and Cypher were so devastated in 3.3 when they talked about Hyacinths. Because obviously, Aglaya, Hyacinths, Cypher, and Tribby were all extremely close to one another. Oh, that was fantastic. I love getting this side of Aglaya. It is so good and does so much for her character. More. I can't get enough. Give me more.
In the depths of the Sea of Souls
Okay.
was a kingdom of
Transition
dance
is something else, I think.
ghosts. Its residents all had melodious voices, and music enveloped every ocean current. For the queen loved her people deeply, thus drowning out all sorrows and leaving only feasts and twirls.
Yeah, this was the backstory that we got while we were going through Styxia with Lygus, effectively.
Belonging to the princess of the
How
ocean,
Hyacinths and her people
named
were
Electra,
basically just devastated and leaving,
were a monster
devastated by
to invade.
the Black
princess
Tide and how
raised her sword.
she is the last survivor, effectively, of her
People
species.
always rang her triumphs before she returned. for her swordsmanship was
Those black tide beasts, by the way, the ones that we saw the people of Hycelands turn into, are grotesque and terrifying.
triumphant people.
I think they're
raised their
fantastic designs, but
glasses,
every time I see them, I'm just like,
yet
ew.
she declined
Ew.
with a smile and a wave. The children of the sea thought she was shy, but little did they know that in the dead of night, her castle too echoed with music.
Aw.
That music was loud, twisted, and invoked
Oh,
spite.
never mind.
Before a song even finished, the princess was already biting her lips.
So Hycelands would,
Foam
you know, use music as a coping mechanism almost to deal with the trauma she sustained from battle and war.
So why do I alone lack a good singing voice?
Or maybe not.
The princess wept, her face on the queen's knees.
The ocean's favorite child can control the waves and is invincible in battle.
So a little bit of both.
In exchange,
It's a little bit that, yeah, she
took
was
away
singing
your singing voice.
out of need to cope with her trauma, but also because she just,
Caressing
her
the
talent for
hair.
battle was exchanged for her talent for
Finally,
singing.
she relented and took a chalice.
If you're truly troubled, then imbibe the honey brew in this blessed chalice and throw yourself into the feast at ease.
The liquid in the cup sat still, reflecting her loneliness.
Stevo, interestingly, Hycelands, Aglaya, and Cypher are on screen together in Tribios' trailer, wherein it says some will discard their humanity. Huh. Oh, that's right. No, you're right. I remember watching the trailer and I was like, okay, we get this trio together. Huh. I'm sure they're going to be important later down the line. And what do you know? What do you know? Now we're here depressed because we just want the three of them to be together. And don't forget trivia as well. We want the four of them to be together, and it's just continuous just pain and suffering, you know what I mean? Just driving the knife in my heart even further. On top of all of this, all the other Chrysosers are
People
dead.
outside her window invited her warmly still.
Thanks, Lygus.
She finally ceased to hesitate, drinking down all the honey brew in one swallow and leaped into the crowds. She played music and sang, smiling and dreaming. When her song was over, it felt as if waking from a dream. People rushed to raise their glasses. But as soon as the honey brew touched her lips, the princess plummeted to the ground, and her cheeks became rosy in drunkenness.
Okay.
The whispers of the ocean filled her ears as the princess fell drunk again and again at the prelude of a feast.
Sorry, I was gonna say Hycelands. It's Helectra.
Able to get rid of that curse.
The gold weaver softly took the cup away from her hand.
If you want to enjoy yourself to the fullest, then leave this honey brew till the very end.
She smiled, then tilted the cup towards the gold weaver's lips.
Even if one is burdened with imperfections, I beg you to remember not to refuse that sip filled with fantasy and dreams.
This is so cute. But Hycelands, you have to understand, Aglaya just doesn't want to play the sober friend. She wants to drink also. Because remember, apparently Aglaya is a lightweight as well. So you guys, you're getting drunk, but Aglaya has to take care of you, so she can't get drunk. You know, you gotta let the sober friend get drunk every once in a while. God, they had such a good friendship. Man, I really hope they're all alive at the end of Euphorius. It would be such a waste for these characters to just be left behind and lost.
She returned home after many years, The princess of the ocean stood alone with her sword drawn, stepping over the blooming blood of her peers. Before her, the creator of the sea sirens and the mother goddess of feasts was already sinking into the drunkenness of imminent death.
Heretical calamity. Interesting.
When the blood pact of the law won over the ocean's core flame,
Oh.
the sea siren once again lost her melodious voice.
Interesting.
I'm willing to accept the final Imperial command. But it is a pity that our feast was ultimately a mirage.
Exactly.
The deep sea became a silent place of dwelling. Hugging her knees, Electra locked herself in. Savage and fearsome monsters swam past her, but none dared to interrupt her tragic dream.
That was a really good narration there from Kalis's voice actor. This paragraph.
Long time no see, Gladius.
Oh.
Brilliant.
Oh.
Now you have truly become the ocean's bedrock.
They're so different now.
Old friends
Oh, this is so
met
painful.
again, and new friends came in greeting. Many messengers came in.
Aglaya came to get Hycelins,
Hid behind the golden trout, the butterfly of the dead.
but she's so different now. She's been hardened into just this leader.
You don't mind?
Resplendent pearls sparkled.
We hope you can regain your strength.
And Cyrene was able to
and
give her
sing
her
for the
voice back.
world once again.
Electra raised her violin sword in doubt, as the strings had long ago rusted.
Violin sword, say that again.
But a few golden strands cleansed all the filth around her.
Bro,
That stretched out to become new strength.
why are you giving me this after 3.5?
Golden strength showed Electra that the world she loved was not.
Because this is just painful for me at this point. Because I know what happened to them in 3.5.
Yet the path to the Sea of Stars would not be a carefree feast. The golden trout never met
Oh,
with her
okay.
again. And the
Sure.
waves brought
Just
endless
pour salt into my wound, will you?
Amidst the long wait, she remained bound by decree. All the flames had died out, extinguished until this world fell into eternal silence.
Stevo, the pain is a point. Yeah,
Deep sea were the audience of
yeah.
the Theoros.
You already know that the world is just an illusion.
You know, I didn't think I'd have to hear your voice again, like us, for at least 6 weeks. Not sure if it's good to hear again or not.
Since the mirage of pleasures can only disappear like foam. When you return, will you save some ocean?
Oh,
sand for me?
that is such a good. Those are two amazing lines.
This was a city of festivities, where never-ceasing songs eternally filled the air. Chrysosairs, demigods, and mortals all came to feast from the four corners of the world. It was beautiful and radiant, performing the sea siren's drama amidst the revelry.
This is the best narration of the, as I've written, that we've gotten from the Trailblazer, I think. At least for Kalis. Not sure about Stel.
The music fade and the guests disperse. As a fish, she was destined to drift with the waves, whether amidst the surging tides of evil or immersed in the currents of the starry sea.
Mm-hmm.
Until a millennium later, the finally took their seat.
I enjoy banquets. How about you, little Grey Fry?
Aw. At the very least, she got us at the end. Nice. Just like Stevo said, the pain is a point, but man, is the pain sharp. Pun not intended. Fucking hell. Like, I knew we were gonna get more Aglaya, but... Oh, fuck. Okay. Alright. You guys know my thoughts on their relationship already. I think it's beautiful. I think their friendship is so good. Okay. Seridra. Or Seridra. They pronounced it both ways in 3.5. I don't know quite what the correct pronunciation is. Now, I prefer Seridra. That's the name that I prefer, the pronunciation that I prefer. But Seridra, I think, was said a couple of times in 3.5 as well. So I'm going to call her what I like, Seridra. If it's Seridra, I will transition to using that later down the line. It's kind of like a fine on, fine in situation. But now I think I've gotten used to calling fine in, fine in.
Back then, the tides of the Chrysos War had not yet engulfed this city-state of Talenton. And the young princess inside the gates once loved to roam without worries.
So is this how she became who she
snuck
was?
into forbidden grounds while the servants were away, but was shocked by what she saw on that day.
So she was also royalty.
A chessboard, a stack of pieces.
This is her master.
Strange woman. The board dissected by daylight and shadow, the pieces polished from rough stones uneven.
Fancy a game? If you are my match, then I'll call you my friend.
The stranger's voice was husky and coarse.
If you can beat me, then I'll call you my teacher.
The princess proudly retorted.
So even back then, she was still like a very prideful person.
Despite the bravado, the princess had never touched chess. The defeat made her study in earnest, acknowledging the other as a teacher.
Stevo, I prefer the same pronunciation as you because it sounds almost how it would be pronounced in Polish. Oh, interesting. Okay, then Seridra it is. And also just Seridra is a bit harder to say. It doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well. But interesting to hear that, you know, the Polish pronunciation of the name leans towards one more than the other. It's pretty cool.
Well, first she learned the knights, bishops, rooks, and queen. Then how to defend, attack, capture, and checkmate.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned all there is to learn.
Barely out of childhood,
Her voice is now
princess raced into
older.
games of chess. Those who looked down on her faced many losses. Those who glorified themselves forfeited in a mess. At her prime, none could rival her at all.
Does she ever surpass her teacher?
But she still recalled what the stranger said.
My origins bring dark omens.
Okay.
So never tell others where your teacher is from.
All right. I'm wondering who it could be at this point.
The waves of the Chrysos War washed over the world.
Would it be someone we know?
The Achaemons welcomed a ruler. She was deemed imperator and loved to play chess with herself. She regarded all things as pieces, whether Chrysos heirs or Titans magnificent. Before every god-slaying campaign, she thought of the stranger from her childhood, as if that woman...
I think the master's voice, I think we might have heard it before,
Isn't it lonely to play chess against yourself?
but I might be wrong.
Princess did not understand at the time. But now, she who bore the crown finally realized the flame chase's beginning was like fuel being tossed into the fire. And
okay.
an unending road of marching banners and war cries.
Interesting.
Finally had the time
The time to meditate. Very specific
There were
word choice
often
there.
jesters behind the king, curious about her past in her old city lost to time. One claimed the Imperator was cruel, executing her own teacher. Another stated the Imperator was biased, learning from an enemy hostage.
Damn, so she executed the
Many
teacher.
such
That's
rumors
crazy.
abounded, with no origin found.
Well, that's the rumor, at least.
No matter. That was indeed the criminal sentence I read out.
The
Oh.
Imperator stated evenly,
My
Oh, God.
teacher was an enemy hostage whom my elders had imprisoned.
Okay.
Her state betrayed our alliance and must be executed according to law. But she taught me chess.
Well, damn.
So why
What a
can't I
reveal.
put the word teacher on her tombstone now?
Is there
when the princess personally
is there a
came
city
up
state of
with
Amphorius that we knew was in
possessions,
opposition with Talanton?
she caught sight of an incomplete.
Is it Styxia? No.
The stranger's hoarse chuckles.
Is there
still
even
echoed
one?
in her ear, laughing at the eternal fate of imprisonment, and at how the one facing her was the princess of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Is this your final game for me, my teacher?
The princess imagined the end game over and over. Even when she took the imperial crown, she still dreamt of the
Whoa.
black and white board. The
Okay.
concealed truth suddenly dawned on her during a more difficult contest in the future. An unfinished game might be the opponent's lifelong barrier.
Damn. Wow, this is really good. This is giving us such. This is giving us such a more deeper look into Saradra's thoughts that I'm happy we're getting. She is a very vague character in 3.5. A very good one, but still vague.
For the first time, passing through city gates scorched by war.
Another tyrant still!
So exclaimed the angry child. The rock tossed from up high hit the girl's crown. The crowd shrieked and retreated. Fearful
Yeah, I was gonna say.
flames of fury. The girl reached out, not to straighten the crown on her head, but to help up the child shivering in dread.
I heard in the old laws of this land, whoever assaults the crown shall be punished. But I wear another land's crown. And your old laws should also be abolished.
After many days, the gold weaver discovered in shock that wearing a crown or a hat to the side was now this land's fashion. Likely to remain with the Imperator's name.
She put it into law. Oh wait, no, she didn't. She
So-called heroes with
well,
gold
she might
weavers
have, but it might have just been
veins
something that happened naturally
all
due to
have the
people
quality
admiring
to
Saradra.
fight for the core flames. Who's to say this was not the gods' plan? To have the heroes at each other's throats so the divine could hide in old law's lair and laugh, play, and gloat. Who made this world a chessboard and with one stroke, one river, created the boundary between God and man?
Dux Gladiorum. Dux Carminum. Dux Helcalithist. Dux
Batman.
Dux Brumatus.
His name is Batman. Get it right.
Heed my call.
The girl stood before a mighty army with her scepter.
Today, I will insist on crossing the Rubicon.
Oh,
Gather the
Rubicon.
might of all heroes.
That's a name we haven't heard before, is it?
Play gods.
Half of the core flames were now in her hands.
Wait, was Rubicon the city-state of
Leaving
that followed Zagreus? I'm trying to remember. God, my lore is so scuffed, man. I need to fucking Cat, I need to brush up.
The Imperator summoned the heroes to discuss, finally stopping after much hesitation. As they had already pinned down the bones of Earth's beast, they let that thief live for a bit longer in bliss.
Well, damn.
The warrior of the fractured blade laughed boldly.
Our sovereign is good at open strategies and struggles with trickery. But where is that live fish?
The Imperator replied with a chuckle.
Her? She probably disliked the scent of cats and submerged herself in the baths.
True.
The years spent with her dukes didn't seem too far distant.
Cypher and
Only
Hycelins,
after the end
always
of
at
many
odds.
wars did the heroes discover how the Imperator's form walked more and more alone.
The road of a ruler is a lonely one. One day, we'll only be able to see her retreating form.
The sword master of singing waves.
The burden of leadership is very lonely. I
when
mean,
all
just
others
compared to a
seemed
Goliath,
caught in intoxication,
compared to Finan, being a leader means distancing yourself in certain ways from your
wars
followers
burnt
who
deeper than their
previously potentially were your friends, your comrades. It's painful to take a position where you have to potentially command them.
One more cup with me, my dear follower.
In the end, the Imperator first broke the silence.
When compared to the taste of salt and blood,
Aww.
I sometimes miss your ambrosia.
About the destruction soon to be born and the eternally occurring extrapolation. And
Stevo, IRL, crossing the Rubicon is an idiom meaning passing a point of no return.
So this is the
Oh,
world
very
I
cool.
fight against.
the girl's
So
expression.
that was
filled
Serja
with
basically
sorrow
making the
and
choice of
tragedy.
like, okay, all or nothing.
She looked more solemn and ready than ever. Whoever stated that two kings could not meet face to face in chess?
True.
I am the sovereign of Akama. I once faced the gods. So what do I have to fear about the laws hanging behind such gods?
Yeah, it's
I will
different.
chop up the old laws and let them be firewood for the new.
No matter the cost.
Well then.
That was the Imperator's lifelong conviction. Never changed, always persistent.
Yeah, Seradra is definitely a more compassionate individual than I think a lot of people realize. She genuinely, I think, wants the best for her people. Yes, she can rule with an iron hand, that sometimes she is just straight up a dictator. But I think she wants to set a foundation, a kingdom, a system, a people that is self-sustainable, that is healthy, that is positive in many different ways, that, you know, she feels that even after she is passed, right? Even after, you know, her name becomes a part of history and her legacy is all that's left, you know, the laws that are in place, the, you know, systems and procedures and legislatures that she has set up, they can keep her people safe for a long time, right? She's a good ruler in that sense, right? Now, she is also a dictator, so depends on depends on how you view dictators in real life, and
I dreamed
you know,
that the Imperator's
it is what it
statue
is.
stood before the world-wearing altar, her gaze level with that of the gods. Then blood gushed out from the statue's orifices, and the people, in cheers and elation, washed their hands in that golden blood. The tyrant's life will end with violent death. None will weep, and all will cheer as her statue topples.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes with dictators.
She will die before the dawn comes.
Rude.
A vengeful aristocrat, one whose title was stripped by the Imperator, thus spoke.
We cannot agree with your excessive deeds. You have imprisoned Trevios' split selves, demanding that divine authority regress listen to the ruler's mouthpiece.
What? What?
You will reveal your future with the prophecy. And tell in truth, your crusade will indeed be a smooth path. Yet in the same breath, we see omens of your death. A demise in an absolute pure darkness.
Wait, this is a big reveal.
Even so, please excuse us, as our eyes continue to be drawn to your crown's flames.
Wow, okay.
Torum. We don't exactly hate that name.
In the
Aw,
name of Yanis,
the smile must protect.
Holy maiden and oracle, thus spoke the Imperator's Dux Vitorum.
Allow me to remind you, your life is now on a countdown with the fall of law, and you will become law. I must confirm, is our deal still going strong? Is the future I promised you more satisfying than the future in the prophecy?
I'm not sure it ever was, Lygus.
You are as resolute as always. Good. Oh, as ever, this prison of gods and
God, his voice
forces
actor is so
all
fucking good.
mundane and average worlds need someone like you. A daring ruler.
We will talk about Lygus later, but man, dude.
Let us end this despicable extrapolation together.
Amphorius is Theoros, the Imperator's co-conspirator, like
Lycurgus.
thus spoke.
The Imperator betrayed the Flame Chase Alliance. And I was the sinner who paved the way for her achievements. Like how a deep-sea fish cannot escape the tide's push and pull. I granted her an end fitting for a tyrant. Her dying smile gazed towards my tear-swelled eyes. She commanded me to wash away all sins and filth, and return a blinding dawn to the holy city. She commanded me to set up stones and monuments, and lightless...
Sevo, by the way,
legends
there
of
is a
strength.
reference in all of this. Quote unquote,
But
thus
if you will
spoke.
remember her achievements,
Really?
I will.
I'll have to search it up.
I will rest with her in a lonely song.
Electra, the last heir of the ocean, who played music on the waves alone, spoke thus.
Please record the truth of my life, dear author. No need for words of praise or solemnity.
She's like a bard
Just
almost.
as I once instructed Dux Carminum.
Like, tell my
Histories of
story
rulers
through
are
song.
Not for recording our merits, but for warning futures.
Oh, I love
As
that.
for why the Imperator died,
That is such a good
she would
line.
face in life and death, those should be left for the new world to judge.
That is so good.
Now I have personally entered my end, a self-flagellation. Let the boiling gold covering the holy city be stamped with my name. For I am certain I have won half a move against the gods.
Half a move. That's a
And this
great way to describe it.
unfinished game will be left to the future to reach completion.
And oh, did it ever, Seridra.
The only Imperator the holy city had ever seen, spoke thus.
Spoke thus. Stevo! Thus Spoke Zarathustra is a work of philosophical fiction written by German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche that deals with ideas about the Übermensch, the death of God, the will to power, and eternal recurrence. I apologize if my German pronunciation was not good. It has been quite some time since I practiced my German pronunciation. So, first, my bad. I tried my best. But very cool. I did not know that at all. I think I've certainly heard of Friedrich, the philosopher. He's a very famous name, so I know who he is, but I didn't know that he had written this work of fiction called The Spoke, and that it inspired Star Rail to this extent. Very cool stuff. See, Stevo, you are able to like bring these points to me that like really expand my knowledge of Star Rail and how the narrative is working and the inspiration behind them. I really enjoy it. So I appreciate you bringing these things to me. All right, now on to the not Astral Express members. We've got only one. Stevo, I honestly didn't know about it either until I seen it on Reddit and checked on Wikipedia. Okay. Yeah, Reddit will go into some crazy holes, dude, to find connections to, you know, the Star Rail story and more.
My friend, have you heard of the Rosy Celestial Maiden?
Oh god. We're bringing this one back, are we?
Or in the depths of a cave.
Isn't that what everyone called a march in 3.0 when fucking that one NPC found her picture?
Pink dawn and a smile that could thaw the most glacial ice.
I wonder if that was foreshadowing. Yes, yep.
Nikador's nemesis, while others say
It could have been
Lucifer was
foreshadowing.
infatuated with her. Oh, mysterious and beautiful celestial maiden, how I wish to turn into a slate.
They're referring to Cyrene, right?
With your tale.
Yeah, that's who.
Many
Or Hyacinth, right? Also has pink hair.
that celestial maiden, either in the half-remembered dreams of early morning, or in the gossip. And
It looks like they
whispers
might
of
actually
storm.
be connecting this to the actual lore in some way
She
here.
once whispered in my ear.
She once saved my life.
She gifted me an ice crystal.
Her worshippers recite her deeds, even writing some into family teachings. Curious poets ask up and down the land, only to find that the details of these encounters are difficult to recount, even for the witnesses themselves. In the entire holy city, there are none who can provide proof of her existence.
I wonder why.
It is not known since when the Celestial Maiden was always mentioned together with time.
Oh? Where are we going with this?
Recite her name during prayer to beg for miracles to appear faster. It is said that even in the selection of priests of time, girls with pink hair are preferred.
Oh, okay.
Pick me! Maybe I need to go dye my hair.
The brunette candidate was upset, but the examiner responded with a smile.
Don't forget the healer of Twilight. Has a head of pink hair. She's a descendant of the sky.
Pink girls, let's go.
Scholars and poets discuss at length the origins of the rosy celestial maiden, but all mothers tell the same tale. That princess came from beyond the sky. Her shooting star, like crystal ice, pierced the fog of the Veil of Evernight. She
Evernight
made
is such a
friends with
good
the Titan.
character name to
Whenever
use
the
for a
month
March
of
SP.
Evernight descended, they would meet again.
Mm-hmm.
The children love that tale.
So it looks like there was a reason for why in 3.0 the March picture that went around because of that one NPC, people referred to March in the picture as the Rosy Celestial Maiden. That's pretty cool. So there was established lore behind this already.
There are no worlds beyond the sky. So how can the rosy celestial maiden come from there?
About that.
Rosy celestial maiden, a world beyond the sky.
The reckless adventurer takes out the photo stick.
There we go.
claiming it is
Here we go.
the true work of the rosy celestial maiden. The citizens
If only you guys knew how she actually was. 0 IQ, but lovable all the same.
After all, long before the guests beyond the sky
Yeah.
arrived,
It seems
the
so.
of the rosy celestial maiden had already covered the world. So, my friend, have you really heard of the rosy celestial maiden?
I have now. Now I understand the full lore. And hopefully the rosy celestial maiden will come home in my first 10 pool. Please. Because we got absolutely cucked by Hycelands. Double pity. Fantastic. Alright. Terravox, not Dunhong, not Imbibitor Lune, not Permansor Teray. Here we go.
In the years spent wandering the earth, the giant dragon always remembered the Titan's words for their worth. The beasts of the land surrounded it in protection, while twisted beings shuffled and roared, and delicate chimeras climbed up its shoulders. After, the tiny humans came into being.
Tiny
They
wow.
dashed alongside the giant dragon, then, in the blink of an eye, disappeared across the land. Yet the deep irises of the giant dragon saddened in gloom. The ancient creature saw earlier than the Titan did, hidden in the deep ocean, the incoming doom.
Okay. Interesting.
The giant dragon
Earlier than the Titan did.
At the moment that strife was born, the chalice of plenty sighed, and the heretical tide spread from the seabed. Bearing their bone-gnawing pain and agony, Giorios tightened every fiber in their body,
Ugh.
no longer hearing the call of their creations clearly.
Oh God.
The giant dragon once swore an oath at the Titan's breast. And now, the dragon silently turned and departed, leaving the plateaus and mountains of a secluded world, and entering the bustling cities humankind crowded.
And he entered in what form?
Thousands of years
Oh, okay.
later, the giant dragon
Still big dragon.
those tiny creations of Kevali had rooted their civilization in time.
How can there be such a huge Dromus?
Dromus? No, that's a walking mountain of gold.
Even in Amphorius,
Amazed at its appearance,
yeah, you've got greedy people looking for just cash.
calculated its value. Yet the giant
Capitalism.
dragon simply walked in leisure, not harming a single building of any stature, nor paying heed to anyone. It quietly listened to the people's language, and its form dissolved in the flames of war.
Oh.
Many years later, Akula closed their eyes, and the giant dragon's steps were finally halted. A swordmaster who broke the waves stopped its way, and a ruler, commander of the chessboard, looked up with inquiry.
There's no way Saradra
Are you
and
the Dromus that has been attacking all states?
The commander invited the giant dragon to hunt the divine flames together. The giant dragon nodded, but it did not look at the commander, and never mentioned where it came from. Its timeless sight had already seen past the flame chase's final plight.
Giorios shall be executed here.
damn.
The Titan, in a painful daze, closed their eyes with a sigh. Suddenly, the mountains shook and the land cracked. The wounds dealt by the black tide, once mended by the Titan, now tore the land apart again.
That not good at all.
The calamity of lands asunder. Who should shoulder such a duty? The giant dragon sunk into
Yeah, you gotta do it quickly.
answer. For the earth was the breast of Georios, and the dragon's birthplace. And from that day forth, Amphorius had a new legend of how a giant dragon collected the broken lands and once again made the earth whole.
Yeah, you got a lot of you got a big duty ahead of you, Don Hung. Very cool stuff. I think this was the best narrated as I've written by the Trailblazers voice actor, at least for Kalis. Obviously, I don't play Stell, so I wouldn't know how Stell's narration, how quality it is in as I've written. But yeah, really, really good stuff. I really like the entries this time, as I've liked all of them. My favorite, though, I think I made it pretty clear, was Hycelins. Seeing the interaction between Hycelins and Aglaya and Tribby, and we didn't really get to see Cypher, but obviously Cypher is implied as well. Great stuff. I just really love the dynamic that they set up between those three characters, and really great to see them expand on it further and even add in a bit of an emotional connection, right? The stuff with Aglaya being kind of saddened and by the Flame Chase journey, and Hycelins comforting her by telling her about the history of her people and the ocean, and vice versa. Maybe on a more lighthearted note, when Hycelins, wants to drink every time she is cursed and she is a lightweight, and Aglaya is there like, oh dear, I have to play the sober friend again. Really, really like it. All right, well, let's get our rewards, and we will transition to what is in the YouTube stream thumbnail, which is actually our discussion about the story. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to put this on mute, and we're going to transition. We're going to transition to the CG Inferno VOD of the main story. And as we always do, we will go through the story. We'll talk about some key points that I want to discuss. We'll talk about some things that I feel are, more relevant than others. And we'll kind of go through and hit every main point. So here we go. Well, that was a bit loud. Holy shit. Sorry. Let's do like 15%. That's pretty good. Nah, actually, let's do 10%. Oh, shit. There you go. Okay. So, obviously, who is in the I cannot speak. Who is in the stream thumbnail for YouTube? It is one character in particular, and here's what I want to start with for sure. Let's go to him right now. Here we go. Oh, let's put this on mute. Oh, this is a good shot to use, actually. No, I want the shot before. This is fine. Sage, hey, Sage. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for coming in. 3.5 was very good. It was very solid. I thought it was consistently good from start to finish. There was one part of it that I thought was like, but I thought it was definitely a very good follow-up story patch to what we got in 3.4. It was going to be very difficult to follow up 3.4 because of how amazing it was, but I think 3.5 was able to do exactly what it needed to do. So it was given a difficult role within the narrative, but it performed well. But so actually, let's grab a proper Lygus visual here. No, not quite. Not quite. Don't worry, I'll get there. I'll get. Yeah, here we go. Boom. This motherfucker. Sage, I just wish Saradra got more, but she was fun to watch. I agree, Sage. We'll talk about that momentarily. But a big reason why Saradra didn't get that much, and Hycelins as well, is I believe the star of this story patch, and I think a lot of people agree with me on YouTube. I think Stevo, you will probably agree with me as well. Sage, you might agree with me as well. This is the story patch where Star Rail finally said, I'm going to make the star of the show the antagonist. And not just an antagonist, a straight up villain. So we've had antagonists before in Star Rail, and we've had villains before in Star Rail as well. Like Cocolia, straight up villain, right? She has some redeeming qualities to her, but none of which we get to see in real time. Fantilia, also a straight up villain, right? You know, and Hule as well. Then we've got some other antagonists that, like Sunday. Sunday isn't necessarily a villain. He was an antagonist. He was someone who was standing in direct opposition to the main cast, but he wasn't this evil person necessarily. He was someone who was misguided and, we needed to kind of correct. But Lygus a fantastic is a fantastic antagonist because he is a villain but he is a villain that I feel like finally Star Rail went all in on. Like most of the villains that we've had up until now, with the exception of maybe Hule. I think Hule Star Rail did give a little bit of attention to. But Lygus feels like he was properly set up, properly developed as a villain. Like he is, trying to cause essentially genocide on a galactic level. There is no justifying there is no justifying that. So, Sage, and a person in lore who created God, I really understand where he's coming from, but not accepting his way of doing it. Exactly. So this is kind of different. To use Sunday again as a comparison, Sunday was also doing, I think, something unacceptable. And I could understand where he was coming from. But the difference between Sunday and Lygus is I can relate with Sunday's moral code. Like I can see how he was manipulated. I can see how his ethics and his morals were almost corrupted or twisted in a way to where he is doing something that is mostly unacceptable in terms of execution. Lygus, I can relate to. I can see where he's coming from. I can understand him, but I cannot identify with his moral code. It is impossible for me. And you can kind of see that being presented in 3.5. Throughout a lot of 3.5, Lygus has a lot of screen time, especially for a villain, where he is presented side by side with you, the Trailblazer. And throughout all of 3.5, there really isn't a moment in time where you feel that Lygus and the Trailblazer ever kind of meet in the middle. Like both of them stand their ground. The Trailblazer stands their ground throughout all of 3.5. There is no oh, you might not be wrong, and Lygus doesn't really ever have a change of heart. They stay true to their position. Lygus stays true to his position of wanting to use Amphorius and Iron Tomb to destroy Noose and is well aware of the consequences of that choice. And the Trailblazer stands true to their position that, yes, I want to save Amphorius and I want to, save my friends and the companions that I've made here, even knowing that the existence of Noose in the universe is probably a very negative existence to humanity as a whole. Lygus makes good points. The path system, eons, are very dangerous for humanity. They are not a good existence and not a good way to govern the universe. Like, if you could make the eons and the path system just disappear, probably a good thing. But in order to make that system disappear and to destroy it, it probably requires a significant amount of sacrifice. And it's sacrifice that I think people like the Trailblazer, people like the Chrysos heirs are simply not willing to pay. Which galactic genocide, Yeah, makes sense. So, Sage, to be fair, Xander said he made logic codes, therefore there's no emotional part in any of these vestiges. He did say, I think he did say that, but I think it was his logic, not logic codes, but like, what's it called? His logic compule or something. But regardless, I think that yes, Lygus lacks empathy, absolutely, but I think he's capable of it. There are moments in 3.5 where Lygus shows that he is capable of showing empathy. One of my favorite scenes in 3.5, and someone actually commented on my YouTube VOD on this, and I loved it because. So let me try to find the scene right here. This is one of my favorite scenes in all of 3.5. I think this is such a powerful and resonant scene because these are two directly opposed individuals, two directly opposed objectives. Save Amphorius, use Amphorius as a means to the end to essentially destroy the universe, right? Lygus and the Trailblazer. The Trailblazer is going to defeat Lygus. The Lygus needs to defeat the Trailblazer. They are threats to each other's goals. Yet still, right before their final climax, right before their final battle, the Chu take the time to recognize and acknowledge the efforts of all of the Chrysos heirs and the people of Amphorius. Even despite these two characters essentially being a level of a divine, figure, right? Lygus is system admin. He is on a completely different tier of existence than the people of Amphorius. Same with the Trailblazer. He came from beyond the sky. He is also, to a certain extent, an admin as well. These two beings in front of us are on a completely different tier than the people of Amphorius, than the life of Amphorius. The life of Amphorius is mostly just code. But even so, they each approach this moment. They each take the time to acknowledge this life and realize how special it is and show empathy, but in different ways. You can tell that the Trailblazer shows it properly. He has made friendships with the people of Amphorius. He has built connections with the people of Amphorius. They have connected in ways that true to the Trailblazer creed, right? True to the creed of the Nameless. They have connected and understood and immersed themselves in the world and culture of Amphorius, and they've been able to forge something that is filled with soul, something that cannot be described logically. Whereas Lygus, he takes this perspective where, yes, I genuinely think he's being sincere here, that he is showing respect to the Chrysos heirs, to the efforts that they made. Even if he thinks that they are still a means to an end, he can acknowledge what they were able to do to hold them back for this long and to show the administrator of this world that they are something more than just a simple line of code, and he respects it. But I think at the end of the day, he lacks, again, that emotional connection that the Trailblazer has. He doesn't necessarily empathize with them in the same way. He can't relate to them. He sees them as beneath him. And that's why there's a clear divide between them. That's why these two individuals go to battle against one another, because one of them understands what it means to be human and the other does not. Sage, I don't know how he transferred the hatred though. Sage, I think he transferred all of his emotions. I think, yeah, he is mostly a logical individual, but I think he does have feelings and emotions. Sage, I like that event though. Trailblazer got admin privileges. Lygus is still way and above in understanding and controlling of the system. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, keep in mind, like, all the people that tried to stop Lygus, the Chrysos heirs, the Trailblazer, Herda and Screwlum. Herda and Screwlum are true geniuses. The true people with the same title as Lygus. And even then, Lygus barely lost. He barely lost. He almost won. He came really close to winning. So yeah, this man is fucking crazy. He is an amazing villain. One that I think has really set himself apart from the rest of the villains in Star Rail. I think Sunday as an antagonist kind of is still of similar quality to Lygus. I think they're in the same tier, but I think Lygus has clearly shown that he is a better antagonist than Sunday. I still prefer Sunday as a character overall because Sunday isn't just an antagonist, but I think Sunday and Lygus are to me by far and away the two best antagonists in Star Rail. Hule probably being number three, and then the rest don't really matter. I'm sorry. The rest I was just like, okay. But finally, we get a proper investment of time and characterization into an antagonist, and look what they were able to do with him. Zandar is amazing. He is such a great antagonist for Amphorius. Legitimately a breath of fresh air within the narrative, and I think something that was sorely needed in the Star Rail story. So, but yeah, this motherfucker is amazing. There's a couple of other things that I think about Zandar slash Lygus that I think are really incredible. Number one, we could talk about it right here because it's right in front of us. The boss fight was great. Now, a lot of people have said they wish that the boss's health was a bit higher. I agree. I think he was defeated too quickly. Most people with a well-developed team of any kind are going to be able to deal with the boss fight pretty easily. Like the mechanic of limiting your ult usage based on decreasing HP, pretty cool, but still not all that influential if you've got a decent sustain, right? So I think a lot of people are going to get through the boss fight fairly quickly. It's going to feel a bit anticlimactic, but it's fine. Everything else about the fight, the design of Lygus, his true, boss design, the transformation sequence, and most importantly, the music. Holy shit, is the OST so good. It might be the best boss OST that doesn't have lyrics, right? There's a voice in it, but it doesn't have lyrics. Like obviously songs like Proy Proy, right? And Wildfire, those songs are always going to be iconic. And in my opinion, I do prefer them over Lygus's boss OST. But Lygus's OST doesn't have lyrics. And I think for an OST that doesn't have lyrics, it might be the best. At the very least, it's top three. Sage, are you hoping Zandar is a playable character in the future? No, I don't. I don't think he. Number one, I don't think he will be a playable character in the future. I also don't. I wouldn't want him to be playable in the future. I think when you have a character like Lygus, like Zandar, I think you want to keep an air of mysticism around them, right? You want to keep them distant from the player, from the audience, right? Because the more and more that you unearth a villain, the more and more that you kind of relate them to the main audience, the less they become a villain, right? That's why a great villain meets a balance. They're relatable, but not to the extent that they become, someone that doesn't feel like a villain anymore. Which is what I would want with Zandar slash Lygus. I would want him to stay distant, to feel that he is still mysterious, even if we've gotten all these reveals. I think if you make a character playable, you get voice lines, right? You get to see them on your screen more often. You get to use their abilities in combat. It's different. I can see my perspective of Xander slash Lygus changing from what it is currently if he were playable. So no, I wouldn't want him to be playable. Would you want one of his 9 bodies to be playable even if they were named differently? No. No. I think again, any of his 9 bodies, to me, even if his 9 bodies had a different name and if they thought differently, to me, that is still the same consciousness of Xander. To me, Xander has been set in my mind. I don't think I would want any of his character to be modified by using one of his other 9 bodies. So, but yeah. In fact, I'm going to say this now. I'm not the biggest fan of the 9 bodies thing. I think it's fine. I don't think it's necessarily an issue within the story. I guess what I'm trying to say is it could be dangerous in the future. It could set expectations that the writing team has to use Xander in the future. And it's nice to have the flexibility, right? They've set it up in a way that if they want to reintroduce Xander slash Lygus in the future, maybe as a anti-hero or as an antagonist once more, they could. But I think it's dangerous to open that door. You need to manage it carefully. And I think I would have preferred for them not to take the risk. I would have preferred for Xander just to have one body, for it to be Lygus, and for him to be a robot. I think the reveal that he was Xander already and was, robotic in nature, even though he was once human, I think that had enough impact on its own. I didn't think we needed like the nine bodies to create more shock value. So Sage, I think the remaining eight bodies might have killed past eons, to be honest. Who knows? That might honestly have been the case. And if that's the case, holy shit, that's crazy. I don't mind the other eight bodies having done things in the past. I just I don't want the future stories to reuse a character, if that makes sense, right? Keeping a character relevant for too long is poisonous to a character, right? You want to have a character have a proper enough amount of screen time, right? But if you keep them around for too long, that character gets diluted. They become stale. They become a character that doesn't really have an end. When you read a manga or you watch an anime, right? And you start getting into like chapter 300 or like episode like 250 something, you start thinking to yourself, I just wish this would end. It's the same thing with characters. You can overstay a character's welcome, and I think with Lygus, he's so good that you don't want him to overstay his welcome. Stevo, I find in retrospective interesting that when Xander confronted Herta in 3, I'm assuming your message got cut off. Stevo, feel free to finish it. But yeah, I think for me, Sage, I don't want him to be playable. I also don't want him to have that much of a presence after Amphorius. I do think I want him to have a presence, but Stevo made a really great connection earlier. I think he should be like Jing Liu. Jing Liu, who is like teased every once in a while. You get like a little tiny piece of dialogue, or you get maybe a tiny appearance in a trailer. To me, that's good. I think the way I would write it, if for me as a amateur creative writer in the past, I don't really write that much these days, but the way I would write Lygus going forward is I would actually have him join up with Locha and Jingliu. I would kind of start to form this faction around the Godslayer protocol. And I would probably just call it the Godslayers, where it would be these people, this faction that was started by Locha and that was started by Jingliu, who are trying to destroy the eons in the path system, right? And I would have Lygus, after Amphorius, have all of his bodies be destroyed, except for Lygus, his body Lygus. And I would have him find kind of salvation within that new Godslayer faction that started by Jingliu and Locha. To me, that's how I would write it. I think that would be a very safe way to write it, while also keeping Lygus relevant in the future in case I wanted to bring him back into the narrative. So that's the way I would write it. But I'm sure they have I'm sure they have a good understanding of what they want to do. Sage, I think the 9 bodies is just to tell us that we are not only fighting Lord Ravagers in the IPC, but these vessels have plans to kill Noose. Knowing Iron Tomb isn't the end all be all for Noose is just a big crazy reveal. I agree with that. I think that's definitely the purpose behind it. That said, they're expanding the scope of the story too much. We already have several Lord Ravagers, Nanook, and other potential eons that could be an issue that we need to address. If you start to introduce too many obstacles, too many challenges, then your story becomes, again, bloated and they start to have less impact. So I understand what they were trying to do here. My point is, I just wouldn't have done it in the first place. I don't think we need Lygus to be this just overall just imposing figure for all of the Star Rail narrative, because we already have Nanook, we already have the IPC, we already have other potential eons, right? I'm concerned. I think I'm concerned that they're going to ruin his character because they've done such a good job at developing his character up until now. Okay, Stevo, let me see. Stevo, I find in retrospective interesting that when Xander confronted Herta in 3.2, he tried to dissuade her from interference by appealing to her conscience. That is a great point, Stevo. That is a great point, actually. especially for someone whose conscience is so warped, right? Like, it is interesting to think that he he went with that angle despite, maybe he doesn't realize how warped his conscience is. That's why he failed, because I don't think he truly understood Herta. Sage, do you think his other 8 bodies and all just like Lygus, or do you think he found other ways to live in something not robotic? I think they're all robotic, but I do think they're different in nature. I don't think they're just 9 Lyguses. I think there's Lygus, then there's like, who knows, like it's just a random name. Like, let's just, but like I think there's individual personalities and, consciousness within each body that all culminate into Xander as a conscious collectively. So, kind of like for those of you who watch One Piece, kind of like One Piece spoilers, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm about to talk about One Piece spoilers. Leave now. If you watch One Piece or you read One Piece, kind of like Vegapunk. Like Vegapunk has these satellites, all of which are unique, have their own personalities, but all culminates into one consciousness. I think that's what Xander is. So, Sage, are you also worried that these other 8 bodies could be characters we've heard of, like Diamond, for example? No, I would hate that. I would really dislike if every other figure in Star Rail was just Lygus, just manipulating things from what I'm trying to say. I don't want Lygus to be the overall Star Rail antagonist. He's a fantastic contained antagonist in Amphorius. Like, I think that's the scope of his character. That's what it should be limited to. Like I said, if you want to keep him relevant in the future, you have to reduce his influence. You can't keep his influence as powerful as it is currently. Right now, it's perfect because we are in Amphorius and it's just in Amphorius. After Amphorius, it should be a different antagonist. It should be another character that they introduce and developed and connect to the main overall conflict. Because remember, the main conflict is set. It is Nanook. It is the Antimatter Legion. There could be a plot twist involving that for sure. I just don't think it should be introduced now. It's still too early. So, no, I would be very disappointed if Lycus was just, in place, if his bodies were just taking the place of other roles in the universe. Because at that point, the main antagonist of Star Rail basically just becomes Noose / Lygus, and I don't think that's what the main antagonist of Star Rail should be. I think it should be Nanook. It's been set up to be Nanook, and I think it should be developed to be Nanook. Now, you could have a plot twist relevant to that, right? But I don't think it should be introduced this early. So, that said, I've been very negative up until now because I've been overinflating my concern on Lygus's 9 bodies. Lygus is amazing. He is an incredible character, an incredible antagonist. He is relatable in certain ways and unrelatable in other ways that achieve a very nice balance that make him hateable. He is so hateable, but you love to hate him. And he is also, more importantly, extremely charismatic. His voice actor, holy shit, I believe his name is Blythe, right? Blythe, what a performance. This is one of the best voice acted performances in all of Star Rail. It is right up there with like Aventurine 3.1, Finan 3.4, right? This is one of the best like story versions of a voice acted performance we've ever gotten. Sage, I'm interested in how they write Iron Tomb because we know it didn't turn insane until Lygus came in. I think Iron Tomb doesn't. It's gonna be kind of crazy to say. I don't think he necessarily needs to be written well. Because I think the character part of Iron Tomb is just Lygus, isn't it? Right? Like, Iron Tomb is imposing. He is terrifying, both physically and non-physically. Like, what the amount of destruction that Iron Tomb is able to cause is horrendous. That said, I think as a character and as an antagonist, the role of Iron Tomb is not to be a character. It's to be a force, to be an obstacle within lore to stand against our main cast, which I think they've done. So, What I'm trying to say is Lygus cannot exist without Iron Tomb as a character, and Iron Tomb cannot exist without Lygus as a character. They need each other both to be compelling, and thankfully, they both exist in the narrative. So don't necessarily think they need to add a personality to Iron Tomb. I don't think they need to introduce Iron Tomb to be like to have a personality. He could honestly not say a word and I'd be fine with it. Like Iron Tomb could not have a voice actor and I'd be fine with it. I don't think it would make that much of a difference. Sage, with how it's done, but that doesn't mean we can get lore on its corruption. Can't get lore on its corruption. Absolutely. But we kind of already have lore on how Iron Tomb was corrupted, right? Through As I've Written. Like the As I've Written logs have kind of shown how Iron Tomb kind of like grew from its conception thanks to Lygus's manipulations and his intervention as an admin. We kind of already have that. So but we'll see. We have 2 story patches left to see what they want to do with Iron Tomb. But if I were the Star Rail team, I would focus on other characters and I would just have Iron Tomb be just a very vanilla, just powerful, imposing force, and I think that would work just fine. I think from a character perspective for your antagonist, it's Lygus, and I think they nailed it already. So I don't think they really need to do anything else. But yeah, so Lygus is the star of the show. He is the star of 3.5 in my opinion, and I think a lot of people have recognized that, and thank God that they managed to pull a level of this villain off. The next character I want to talk about is not going to be Hycelins or Saradra yet. I'll get to them right after this, but I need to briefly talk about this character because I think this character has done such an amazing job after her release on being a good character. Let me find her. It's gonna be like right around here. Let's do. There we go. Do I have to fast forward or do I have to? Come on. I'm almost there. Just a little bit more. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to press play. There we go. Can we talk about Aglaya? Holy shit, dude. What an amazing character. I was so worried about Aglaya's character after 3.1 because she was released in 3.0 and she got little attention to no attention in 3.0 to her character. She got a lot of attention to her role as a character, like her leader, her ability to lead the Crisis Heirs, what role she played within Emphorius, but we didn't get a lot of character in 3.0 for Aglaya, like character depth or character development. And then when 3.1 came around, and we didn't get that much either. I think we got a little bit with like her relationship with Mighty, how Mighty was inspired by Aglaya. That was pretty cool as well. And obviously her like building like rivalry with Anaxagoras was also really entertaining. But man, I remember going into Amphorius after the trailers, I thought to myself, Aglaya was the character who had the most potential. I thought Aglaya could have been the best character out of all the Crisis Heirs based on what they showed in the trailers. And then after 3.0 and going into 3.1, I was worried. I was like, man, they're really going to waste the potential of this character. And then you get into 3.3 and they reintroduce her character as she is getting closer to her death, right? To the end of, the Aglaya that we knew in part 1 of Amphorius. And they connect her to Cypher. And you get to see a little bit of vulnerability and a little bit of weakness. And then you get her death. And then you get the fallout of her death and how every character was affected by it. And you see the impact she had as a leader, but not just as a leader, but as a person on so many different people. And I think 3.3 was so good for Aglaya, and I was so happy. And honest to God, I was like, I was probably just as focused on Aglaya in 3.3 than I was Fine and Hyacinth and Cypher. But we got even more this story patch. We got to see Aglaya back before she took on the mantle of leadership. back before her humanity was corroded. And it's so good. It's so good to see what she was before because she is idealistic. She's bright-hearted. She lives life with a little bit of sass, with a little bit of energy, and you can tell she's passionate. And it really recontextualizes whatever we saw in 3.1, 2, 3, and 4 because we get to see her journey. We get to see where she started and where she ended up, and every bit of it is so well executed. What a character. Really, I think they did such a good job at taking the potential that I saw based on the Amphorius trailers before 3.0 was released, and they took it in a different angle than I would have taken it. But they still, I think, utilized it well. So props to Aglaya because this character did not receive really that much attention on her release patch, and they still managed to create an amazing character. Sage, do you want Evernight to actually be antagonistic? That's who they should focus on first now that Lygus is in jail. That happened twice in 3.5 Lamau. No, I don't want Evernight to be antagonistic. I don't think she will be either. Mainly because in the Amphorius Part 2 trailer, the trailer for technically 3.5, we see Evernight fighting with everyone against Iron Tomb. No, I don't want Evernight to be antagonistic. In fact, I think, and as a lot of people have said, because they introduce it in 3.5, I think it should be the Garden of Recollection. I think now that Lygus has been kind of as an antagonist jailed, and we really only have Iron Tomb left, I think that our Garden of Recollection should come in and play a part. How they're going to do it, I don't know. I legitimately don't know how they're going to connect the Garden of Recollection to the Amphorius story, but I think that's what it's going to be. Sage, it's more tragic because Cypher loved the nice and kind / naive Aglaya that she slowly watched that version of Aglaya die. Absolutely. And it's not just Cypher, it's all of the Crisis eras, right? Every Crisis era has seen Aglaya at different points in time. Cypher being one of the saddest, right? Because she was there from the start. But every Crisis era has seen Aglaya's journey because she is the oldest. She's, well, aside from Saradra and Hysilins, right? But they weren't around for the first part of Amphorius because they were dead. So, but yeah, I mean, Aglaya is the only Crisis era that we really get to see, you know, from the start of the Flame Chase journey to the finish. Almost, because she dies right before the end, right? And I think it's tragic, but it's also not euphoric. It's tragic, but it's also emotional to see the journey of what is a very human character turn non-human, but still retain her humanity and to persist for that long. So, yeah, Aglaya, fantastic character. One of my favorites in all of Star Rail. Certainly one of my favorites in Amphorius. Okay, let's talk about the two featured characters, right? I want to get to Saradra first, actually. Let's go in reverse order. Let's find her ending card here. Perfect. So, can I find one without the CG Inferno chat? Let me see. Perfect, here we go. I think Saradra is a very complex character. You know who Saradra reminds me of? Not in terms of the character and personality, but the way their character is approached in the narrative. And Sage, I'm kind of interested to see if you and Stevil will agree with me on this. So let me know if you guys think otherwise. But I think in terms of how the character was received and the role they were supposed to play in their story, they kind of remind me of when Topaz was first introduced in Star Rail in Bellabog. This almost grayish character whose motives are unknown, uncertain, whose backstory gets revealed to us at the end and recontextualizes the character that we experienced in the story up until that point. I definitely got a little bit of Topaz vibes from Saradra. Again, not personality, not even in the role that they play within the story, but kind of like their narrative role, if that makes sense, or the feel that their character gives off. Sage, I've seen crazy theories that Black Swan was tricking us the whole time and be revealed to be an antagonist. She's the one that put March in her sleep. Thoughts on this? I would have agreed with you, and I think it would have been really good actually, if not for two reasons. Number one, again, Black Swan is playable. And number two, more importantly, I think her reaction at the end of, is it 3.2 or 3.1, when she has a conversation with Himiko, when she is in March's room, right? And she basically says that Fully has gazed on Amphorius. That reaction, I think, is voice acted so well, and it's meant to communicate that no, she's being sincere, she's being genuine, right? You can read voice acting and the way it's performed in a way to kind of get a sense of the voice director's intentions and the writing team's intentions. And I think in that moment, I think they managed to pull it off. I think they wanted to communicate that Black Swan in that moment was being genuine, and she was being sincere, and I think Black Swan for that reason isn't the antagonist. 3.3, really? 3.3, huh? It's one. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's at the end of one of the 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. It's at the end of one of those. So no, I don't think it's Black Swan for those reasons. So I think Black Swan has an agenda. For sure, she has an agenda, but I think she was being truthful in that scene. I think her agenda has been made known to Himiko, and I think she, admitted that she manipulated the Astral Express to go to Enforce. But I don't think that she is this grand mastermind that has more to reveal. Sage, it's when the Garden took interest with March or Trailblazer. Stevo, I checked, it was 3.2. Okay, 3.2. That's what I thought. That's the one I was leaning towards. But yes, absolutely. So, but I think, so back to what I was saying, I think Saradra's role in 3.5 reminded me of the way Topaz had her role introduced in Belobog. I think she is this gray character who, for the most part, is a good person. I think Saradra has a good head on her shoulders. She's got a good conscience. She's got good ethics and morals for the most part. I think there are some things about her where I'm just like, okay, that's a bit too much. But I think she is also very intelligent, very ambitious. And I think she realizes what's going on in Amphorius. She, because of the influence from Lygus and from other characters like Herder and Screwlum, she knows what's going on. She knows the path that Amphorius is taking, and she has come to terms with her role in it. And I think for the most part in 3.5, she doesn't reveal this to us. She really reveals that at the end. And I think that's why I think she reminds me of Topaz, because we really get most of her character reveal at the end. So I thought she was complex. I did think she was compelling. I don't think she was as compelling as a character as I wanted her to be, but I think it's fine. I think I misunderstood the role they wanted Saradra to play in the narrative before 3.5. And as I was playing through 3.5, I was like, okay, this is the direction they wanted to take with her character. I had misunderstood it, and I think the direction they took with her character, I think they executed it well. So I'm pretty happy with the way Saradra. But yeah, I think she's complex. I think she's an extremely, extremely difficult character to write. I think this might be the hardest character they've ever tried to write in Star Rail. Trying to think of who else it could be. Sunday was hard to write, but they pulled off Sunday. Who else was difficult to write? Zhao Cho was pretty difficult to write in Xianzhou Part 2. I think they pulled him off as well. But yeah, you guys know what I mean. Sage, nah, because 3.3 ended on us with finance, so I remember it being 3.2 cliffhanger. Yeah, it's 3.2. Stevo, Black Swan admitted in 3.2 that she guided us here to exploit our exploring Amphorius to resolve Garden's internal conflict, preferably without actually involving the Nameless. Exactly. You are exactly right, Stevo. But I think that's all it is. I don't think there's anything more than that. I think what she told Himiko was the truth, and I think her reaction to fully gazing on an Amphorius was genuine, and I think it showed that she felt actually sorry about what she basically forced the Astral Express into. I think Black Swan genuinely felt guilty for what she thought that she was going to be able to, you know, do this without involving the Nameless in any danger. But because she did, I think she feels guilty. So, Sage, I think the implication is that she's just in a worse situation than Farina was. She knew she was going to die 33 million times to Hysolence. I wouldn't say Sarah is evil either, but she just wanted to push for a better Enforce no matter what. Sage, that was beautifully described. I didn't think to make the connection to Farina. I think the connection is, I think it's different. I do think Farina and her kind of situation is very different from Saraja's situation, but I do like the connection that you made, that they understood the role that they had to play and that they were forced into it, but still did their best to make, a better place for, Amphorius and for, Fontaine. So good, good connection. I didn't think about that actually. But yeah, one of my favorite parts about the story with Saradra is actually before this scene. It's the conversation that she has with Hysolence right here, because she's still like playing like the role of this like dictator. To be very clear, she is a dictator. She's just a dictator with a good conscience. And but even till the very end, she's with Hysolence. So you could argue Hysolence is the closest human relationship that she has. Even till the very end, she's still playing coy. She's still being secretive. Because she doesn't want to enforce that burden on anyone else. That's what I like about Saradra, is that she understands the role that she's been forced into. She wants to do the best she can within that role and to make Enforius the best place that she can before she dies, right? And at the same time, she doesn't want anyone else to know. She wants to take that burden on herself. And that is also similar to Farina, actually. They have a little bit more connection than what I thought beyond their design. So yeah, I think this scene illustrates that perfectly. This scene until the very end, where she reveals to Hysolence that she is the one that intends to give up her life. She's playing, she's playing her cards close to her chest until her last moment. I think it's respectable. I think she's a character that's gonna actually be forgotten with time. Like I think when you think back to Amphorius, you're gonna think about Finan. You're gonna think about Cyrene. You're gonna think about Aglaya. You're gonna think about those characters more than you think about Saradra. I think Saradra is gonna be an unsung hero of Amphorius, and I think she's gonna be forgotten in time by the player base. And I think that's sad because I think ironically it matches how her legacy as a leader in Akama is going to be forgotten in time as well. So, yeah, great character. I think they did a good job with Serja. I think a lot of people probably didn't find her as compelling as I did, and even then, I think they could have done a little bit of a better job. There's a couple of parts of her character that I was like, okay, maybe you could have added a little bit more foreshadowing to the early stages over here. But I still think they had an idea of what they wanted to do with Saradra, and they managed to pull it off. Like I said, I think this is probably the most difficult character they've ever had to write. So, Sage, also, I think her gaining law made her have no choice but to be the ruler. She got to know what Enforcers truly was and hide that information. I think that's why she can kill without remorse, because she knows it's just code. That's why I refer to Farina's story. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't make that point, but yeah, you're exactly correct. A big reason why she's able to kill without remorse is because, very similar to why we now empathize with the Flame Reaver, because Kaslana killed many people, but we empathize with the Flame Reaver. We love Kaslana / Flame Reaver because we know ultimately not a lot of consequence, right? Same deal with Saradra. I don't necessarily mind that she was able to execute people very easily. That said, I think in context with the fact that she's a dictator, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. I don't want to justify dictator practice in any way. So I do think she's more gray of a character than Kaslana was. Sage, and she hit it so well that Lygus didn't even know she knew. That's impressive. Yes, absolutely. The only time Lygus only figured out Saradra was, acting and being secretive was because she had to for the sake of the Trailblazer. So, Saradra, a very difficult character to write, and I think a character that they managed to pull off. So, props to the Star Rail team. That said, moving on to the character I actually thought was more compelling in the story. Surprisingly, let's I want a specific cutscene here. Is it here? Yeah. Honestly, I was not expecting to be I was not expecting Heislands to be this compelling. I thought she was going to be mostly a throwaway character. I thought, she's like she's after Finan and the Fate collab, right? She's right before Evernight and Permansor Teray. So I was like, I thought Heislands wasn't going to be that compelling. I thought the story was going to be more used for, other characters. But they did such a good job with her. They did. I think it was a brilliant decision to connect her with Aglaia and Tribby. I think they did such a good job at showing their friendship, her backstory, how she was able to persist for so long after the death of her people to eventually find new purpose with the Flame Chase journey and being effectively the retainer of Saradra to eventually meeting Aglaia and Tribby and Cypher and forging a friendship with them, and then to have that taken away again. I forgot who made the connection in the previous stream when we were playing through 3.5. Stevo, it might have been you. I don't want to put words in your mouth. It might have been Suki or someone else. But she actually bears a little bit of similarity to Finan, right? She lost her people in her hometown. Then she went to the Flame Chase journey. She was able to make new friendships, new connections, and then she loses them all again. And she has to persist for a lengthy period of time. Now, obviously, Finan suffered through 33 million cycles. So he probably went through a bit more. But she had to alone persist for 1,000 years in order to shackle Lygus and his will away. And I think it's the same narrative and emotional beats that Finan had. And I think once again it works here. You feel for Heislands. You want the best for her. You just want her to be happy, but you see her suffering and you just want to do something about it, right? You want to free her from her suffering. And I thought it was very compelling, and her song was beautiful. I think her design was really well used. Like the artwork that we got of her, the ocean kind of like aesthetic that she had, I think was a really good pick for the role her character was supposed to play in the narrative. So I really liked Heislands. I liked her a lot more than I thought I would like her. And I'm happy with her character arc conclusion. And I hope we get more of her. I do hope we get more of her. I think this is a character that I think we could still explore a bit further. Like, I think Lygus and Saradra, their character arcs for the most part, I think we got enough of. I'm happy with where their characters arcs are. With Heislands, I'm very happy with her character arc, and I think they could do more. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, Heislands, probably out of between her and Saradra, I actually enjoyed Heislands a smidge bit more, which I'm very surprised by, because you guys know how much I love Saradra's design. I adore Saradra's design so much. Sage, that's why Lygus said her smarts and acting was his fatal mistake. Absolutely. I mean, every single Crisis Heir and their efforts all played a role in defeating Lygus, but Saradra was probably the one that started it all. She was the start of the chain reaction. Sage, to be fair, no one is thrown away in the story of Amphorius, and it's been like 16 characters. That is true, Sage. I should have realized that going to 3.5, that Amphorius up until now has not neglected a single character. So I should have realized that they were going to do a fantastic job of Heislands. Sage, Finan forced to kill Cyrene and others. Heislands forced to kill Saradra. Yep. again, there's similarities. They're there. And we all love Finan as a character, so why wouldn't we love Heistlands? So yeah, great stuff. I was very happy with Heistlands' character. I think they did a phenomenal job with her, a better job than what I expected them to do. That might have just been me being dumb. And don't get me wrong, I can be dumb sometimes, absolutely. So, and so those are the 3 stars of the so Lygus, Heistlands, and Seradra. Obviously, the 3 stars of 3.5. I think Lygus usually probably stole the show, but all 3 of them were fantastic, and I think I was very happy with what they did with their characters. Like I said, I think the only thing I would change was I would have added just a little bit more, I think, emotional vulnerability with Seradra at the beginning of the story quest. Foreshadowed it. I would have foreshadowed her reveal, her backstory reveal, just a tiny bit more. But I think, again, she was an extremely difficult character to write, and I think they did the best they could. Stevo, I think we might start next cycle with Heistland, since she was with us when we initiated next cycle, just as Mem/Sharini was last time. I thought so as well, Stevo, until we got that scene with her at Scale Gorge Waterscape. Like, I'm not sure how that plays into it at all. But I think they left it vague. I think they left it so if they want to have Heistland start the next cycle with us, she can, and if she doesn't, that's fine too. I think they wanted to leave it vague to see what they wanted to do. So whatever they choose to do with her character at the start of 3.6, I'll be fine with. Sage, I know it was quick, but I liked that with Trailblazer as the deliverer, the Chrysos heirs died united in this timeline, all for Trailblazer to win. I think it's both that, Sage, but I think it's Finan, really, right? It's because Finan's holding back the Black Tide. Because the Black Tide isn't as powerful, there's less suffering in this version of the Eternal Recurrence. And so the Chrysos heirs are able to stand united in this timeline against Lygus as a common enemy, instead of having to suffer through each campaign against a Titan, right? In a race against time because of the Black Tide. So I think, yeah, it's the Trailblazer as being the deliverer and them having to build, set the path for him. But I think it's more that Finan is holding back the Black Tide. I think that's the main reason why the Chrysos heirs were able to stand united against Lygus in this timeline. Sage, Finan could probably never get them to unite for those 33 million cycles. Yep, it's ironic. Finan, it was, as the deliverer, was never fated to be able to unite the Chrysos heirs because of the destiny that he was dealt. But after he passed on the torch is when he is finally able to unite them. He's protecting him. He's protecting the Chrysos heirs, finally, properly uniting them by giving up his role as deliverer. Sage, yeah, the implication that IDs is fighting this timeline too. Yes, exactly. All thanks to Finan, he's protecting his parents this time. Stevo, yeah, without Black Tide, there is much less pressure. Exactly. Again, in order to defeat Lygus, it was a chain reaction of so many people's efforts. So many. It is Herder and Screwlum. And without Himiko, Welt, and Sunday on the outside, and Black Swan as well. Black Swan was helping. Without the Astral Express people on the outside, Herder and Screwlum would have never helped. So the Astral Express on the outside, Herder and Screwlum, Finan, right? Basically surpassing the knowledge singularity and scratching an Eon, holding back the Black Tide, the Trailblazer and Dan Hong, the Astral Express on the inside, all of the Chrysos heirs, all of these different factors, and we still barely defeated Lygus. It was this close. It's crazy, man. Sage, probably why Lygus is intervening this time too, not just because of Trailblazer. Yep. The true deliverer is causing him endless stress, right? Finding the Trailblazer, bro. Lygus probably hates the word deliverer. He's like, God fucking damn it. These people keep screwing up my plan. These two motherfuckers. But yeah, Lygus, Heislin's, Saradra, really, really great in 3.5. And again, I wanted to give special focus to Aglaya. In terms of before we get to the last thing that I want to talk about, there's a couple of other things that I want to get to. So we already talked about the boss fight. Something else that I really want to talk about. Obviously, this moment right here, right? And everything leading up to this moment. So we can start with this actually. We can start with this. The Garden of Recollection once again being mysterious and a thorn in literally everyone's side. What the fuck are they doing? Who knows? They're probably still wanting to use Amphorius for their own purposes, right? But Black Swan has told us that there's different factions within the Garden of Recollection. We still don't have a name, right? For that specific faction that wants to use Amphorius for their own gain, right? But I'm very certain that this is them. This is not like the faction that Black Swan is a part of. This is them, that weird faction that Black Swan said has managed to influence themselves onto Feli's pinky finger. And they're trying to manipulate something within Amphorius. Who fucking knows what? But this is them. But I think it's really cool that the Garden of Recollection has always fucking stopped March from figuring out her memories. They've done everything possible to keep March from, achieving her goal, her objective of learning who she was. And this time, it's March who is stopping the Garden of Recollection from achieving their true goal and their objectives. I think it's amazing. And can we just talk about how this is one of the best designs in the game? Like, honestly, might be a top 3 design for me. Like, it's March, it's like Saradra, and then after that, who knows? Yeah, who knows? But this is such a good design. The eyes, the way they just stare into your soul, the red and the black and the white of her outfit, the facial expression that this March has. It's so good, and I love the design so much. But yeah, I think it's really cool that this time, after the Garden of Recollection has always just impeded March at every turn, this time it's March that impedes the Garden of Recollection, or at the very least, Evernight, right? Because we still don't know. We still don't know who Evernight really is. According to Dan Hung, he believes that this is not March, and that, this is a different personality, a different conscious. But Evernight states that they could be one and the same. So I guess we'll find out in 3.6. I'm very excited to see what they decide to do with March in 3.6, because I do think March is going to be the highlight of 3.6. I know Dan Hung is releasing in 3.6 as well, but I think the focus is going to be on March. Sage, Dan not trusting her is what scares me. There's implication she stopped him from leaving Amphorius. There is implication, and I know that it can be scary, but I think this is a classic case of, like, it'll be revealed later down the line that what she was doing was probably the best thing for Amphorius, right? I think, yeah, she clearly is doing things for a purpose. She has an agenda, but I think that agenda is ultimately for the benefit of the Astral Express, for Dan Hung, and for the Trailblazer. If Dan Hung needed to be stopped from leaving Amphorius so that he could become Permansor Teray, then that's what needed to happen. And I think Evernight is just working towards that. So exactly. She most likely had to keep him there because he's taking over for Terravox. I think so as well. So, and if she's not the one who kept him there, then, she certainly wants him to stay. So who knows? I don't think Evernight's an antagonist. I would be very surprised if she was. If she does end up being an antagonist, they're really gonna have to write it well, because I don't think they've set the groundwork for Evernight to be an antagonist at all. So they're gonna have to do it all in 3.6. Sage, we know she took Cyrene away, so we don't know what that means yet. Well, she took Cyrene away to save her from Lygus, because she knew that Cyrene needed to be present with Herta and Screwlum so they could achieve this. So this doesn't work without 4 people. This doesn't work without Herta. It doesn't work without Screwlum. It doesn't work without Cyrene, and it doesn't work without Sunday. Without one of those four people, they wouldn't have been able to trap Lycus like this. So March probably took Cyrene away because she needed Cyrene to be safe from Lygus so that she could do this. Anyway, yeah, March in 3.5, very cool. I thought she was used very well. Sage, I know that, but I feel there's another plan in motion with her and Evernight. We know Cyrene will get a new form later. 1000% Sage, I agree. I just think that plan in motion with Evernight and Cyrene, I think it's going to be for the benefit of the Astral Express. I don't think it's going to be antagonistic whatsoever. They would never have the balls to make the Elysia XP related to an antagonist in any way. They already walked a fine line with her like telling Kaslana to go through all the cycles, because she probably would have known that Kasana would have been destructive and repeating all those cycles. This is Hoyo versus Golden Child. Well, one of them, right? When you think about Hoyo versus Golden Children, it's like Kiana, it's Elysia, it's Firefly, it's Farina, right? These are characters that they will never put them in a bad position because they are the most popular characters, right? They need them to be perfect. Not perfect as people, but perfect as characters. They need to be well liked. Cyrene probably eventually will be a part of that group, if not already. Sage, what are your thoughts on Cyrene being just a memo sprite only existing due to Trailblazer arriving? Is it because she's the true deliverer? Well, Cyrene currently is just a memo sprite and currently only exists because of the Trailblazer. Cyrene, once upon a time, was a real person. She was a real Amphorius person, right? And her existence was, converted into a memo sprite through the memories of Mem and the ripples of the past reverie, who she became after Find and destroyed her, and now she's a memo sprite. Trailblazer is the true deliverer. I don't think Cyrene is going to be the true deliverer. Yeah, Trailblazer is the last deliverer. I think he is. He is going to be the true hero of Amphorius, and he's going to need the help of Cyrene. Cyrene is the main character of Amphorius Part 2. Similar to Finan being the main character of Part 1, Cyrene is the main character of Part 2, if that wasn't all obvious already. Danny Chug, hello, my friend. Glad that you came in. You missed a lot, but I mean, we're still talking, and you can always go back and you can watch the VOD as always. We started with catching up with As I've Written, and now we're just kind of talking through what we liked, what we didn't like about the story and such. So I'm glad you can make it here towards the tail end of it, but there's still a few things I'd like to talk about. There's still a few things that you can participate in. But yeah, Sage, I think Cyrene being just a memo sprite is not that important. I think it's going to be just, she's just tied to Trailblazer. That's the main thing. So yeah, March was awesome. This scene with Lycus was really cool as well. There's a few other things I want to talk about. I think it's before this. Where is it? Come on. No, I think it's even further here. I'm trying to find a very specific scene. Was it really this far back? Okay, here we go. Okay, so I actually kind of vibed with these NPCs. I thought the NPCs in this story quest were actually pretty good. Apollonius, she has like a really long name. Forget. Oh no, it's not her. Virginia. And then there's Seneca and who we like to call Batman because he sounds like Batman. But it's these two right here. I actually liked these four characters. They are Seridra's kind of commanders. They have a unique Dux title, and I thought they were pretty good. I didn't think they were like overly compelling, but when they were used in the story as a sacrifice by Saradra, I felt the impact. I thought it was, you know, something that was noticeable. And I think that they took the time to invest to make these characters important because they knew they were going to be used in that sacrifice later. So, just a quick call out that I appreciated the NPCs in this story quest. I thought Batman, I thought her name is Seneca or Serica? Seneca. I thought Virginia and I thought Apollonius. I thought they were good NPCs, especially after how bad some of the NPCs were in the first part of Amphorius, like kindness and all that stuff. So good job. Just please create better NPC models, however, as I beg you, because these are atrocious. Danny Chuck, okay, I'll check the VOD later. Yep, it was a good time. As I've written, was really, really fun. Specifically, Hycelens was my favorite because I really love the Hycelens and Aglaya dynamic. Sage, how different will adult Cyrene be, though? That is a fantastic transition, Sage, to the very last topic I would like to discuss today. My favorite Amphorius character, my second favorite Honkai Star Rail character of all time behind only Firefly. Look at Pink Jesus. Can we talk about how wonderful Cyrene has been in Amphorius so far? Because she's been there from the start. Keep in mind, this Cyrene is just Mem, right? That Cyrene that we saw with Finan in the original cycle, she got turned into Mem. Well, kind of. The Cyrene from the original cycle was destroyed. Then she became just Memoria. She was Ripples of the Past Reverie, and she existed within Amphorius as just Memoria. Then the Ripples of the Past Reverie was able to essentially merge with Mem and the memories that Mem had to create this new version of Cyrene. And she has been wonderful. She is so likable. She is extremely well voice acted. She has an amazing design. And I think her character up until this point has been very strong. I think her ability to go from this optimistic, teasing, mischievous young girl to a serious kind of hero figure who knows what needs to be done, what role she has to play, and is willing to do so for the benefit of her friends and her loved ones is so good. I'm excited to see what they do with her. We all know she has a new form coming. We all know that she's been hyped to all hell by, leakers. Sage, you became a ZZZ NPC fan too. Yeah, I love the Zenless NPCs. They are very good. But yeah, her role in the story in 3.5, it was not narratively important, but she is just always there for the most part. She's always there being a breath of fresh air. I think without Cyrene, 3.5 doesn't work. I think she provides levity. I think she provides moments of relaxation. I think without Cyrene and 3.5 is way too overly melodramatic. I think it is way too serious without Cyrene. Stevo, all I'm going to say is that unless 3.6 really screws Cyrene up, I ain't pulling once until she comes out, bro. Stevo, I wish. I love, all the Amphorius characters. I have to summon for them. But I'm going to commit to something here, Stevo, to kind of be right there with you. I think Cyrene will be only the second character ever after Firefly I get Eidolons for. I never summon for Eidolons. If I get an Eidolon, it's because I got lucky and I summoned Chu and won. And I don't think that's ever happened actually. So I think the only character that's featured that I have Eidolons on is Firefly. And you guys know me. I'm a Firefly giga fan, super fan. She is not just my favorite character in Star Rail, she is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. So I got Eidolons for Firefly. I think Cyrene I'm going to get Eidolons for. I love this character to death. Elysia, for the longest time, was my favorite Honkai Impact the Third character. She is Elysia's XP. And I've said this before, right? I said before that Kiana had taken over as my favorite Honkai Impact the Third character. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I think the Cyrene boost has brought Alicia back up to be my favorite character again. Because I've gone back to watch like Alicia scenes and her animated short a lot since Euphoria started. And there's been like, man, I love Alicia so much. I love her so much. And Cyrene is similar in all the right ways, but also unique enough to be different. Yeah, she's just fantastic, man. She really is. Danny Chuck, I have a problem, and that is that every patch I want, even since 3.1, I pulled every patch. Danny Chuck, yes, me too. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, up in Star Rail, up until Amphorius, there were characters that I could very easily skip, right? Like, characters I was like, they're cool. And some of those characters I really like, but personally, I just don't want them. Like, a good example is Boot Hill. I love Boot Hill. He's awesome. He's one of my favorite characters in Star Rail. He's definitely in the top half for sure. I just, I'm good. You know, like I don't need to summon for him. Something maybe about his design, maybe about his gameplay, something, right? Just like I'm good on Boot Hill, right? And there's a couple of other characters like that as well. Like Jing Liu is another great example. Like a lot of people like had Jing Liu as a must summon in 1.0. For me, again, Jing Liu is great. She has an awesome design. She is dope within the story, but I'm good for whatever reason. Just you know, from a subjective perspective, I'm good. And Amphorius, there's not a single character I haven't want. I haven't wanted. Like the only character that I think in Amphorius that I felt really comfortable skipping was Anaxa. And I like Anaxa a lot. So if I could summon for him, I would have, but I needed to save up for other characters. I I skipped Tribi. I summoned Tribi on rerun. I skipped Hyacinth. I don't know how I skipped Hyacinth. That was the most amount of willpower that I've ever used. I had to really force myself to skip Hyacinth. If Hyacinth didn't come out right before 3.4, I would have summoned for Hyacinth. But guess what, guys? I'm summoning for Hyacinth on rerun, so I'm summoning for Hyacinth. And then Cypher was also very painful to skip, and I could see myself summoning for Cypher on rerun as well. So it has been a tough one. It has been tough. And then I'm summoning for every character until Cyrene releases, and then potentially summoning for Eidolons. So you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen? Money. My wallet is going to be crying. My wallet is going to be very sad. Danny Chuck, and I didn't pull in 3.0 because I was absent at that time and couldn't play. They are really good characters. Yes, they are very good characters who are used within the narrative very well, who have very good designs, and it's really difficult to not pull for them. They're also really good gameplay wise from a gameplay perspective. So, yeah, it's a tough one, man. We live a hard life out here. But yeah, Cyrene, absolute peak. She is my favorite Amphorius character. She was always going to be my favorite Amphorius character. It was Mighty all the way up until Cyrene got screen time, and as soon as Cyrene got screen time, it was over. Like, I'm sorry, Mighty. I still love Mighty to death. I think is he my fourth favorite character now? Yeah. So my top 5 characters are Firefly 1, Cyrene 2, Sunday 3, Mighty 4, Finan 5. And I don't think that's changed after 3.5. But Cyrene is just on another level. I love her so much. She is amazing. And I'm excited to see what role they decide to use her in the story going forward, because we know she's gonna have an adult form, and how they're gonna get there, who knows? But all I know is that the more screen time Cyrene gets, the more I'm gonna love her. The more I'm gonna love her. Sage, I'm still going for Seradra E0S1, maybe E1S1. Bro, good luck, my friend. That is 3 5-stars you're going for there. So I wish you luck. Knock on wood, cross your heart, every superstition. Good luck. I'm also going for Seradra, but I'm gonna get her E0S0. That's all I'm getting. Danny Chuck, I hope she can peak Amphorius. Oh, 1000%. You guys know she's gonna peak Amphorius. Like, she might be even more hyped than Biden. Like, the moment that she gets in 3.7 or 3.6, she might reach the same levels of hype Finan did. This is the Elysia XP. You don't think they're gonna go all out for her? She might have the best animations in the game as a support character. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? She's gonna be a support character likely based on leaks, and she might have the best animations in the game. Sage, I just need 2 of her in 1 10 pool. Hey man, good luck, my friend, because I have only gotten that like 3 times in my entire Star Rail career. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and start wrapping it up, my friends. We ended up going just a bit longer than what I thought, but it's okay. Let's end off as we always do with Cyrene. What picture do we want to use as Cyrene? Oh, I know exactly what picture. We didn't talk about the scene, but it was a fantastic scene. Here we go. Yep, look at that smile. She is the best. We will protect at all costs. Well, hold on. I want a picture of this without the chatters from CG Inferno. Damn it. Okay. There's no picture. That's fine. Here we go. We'll end on this scene. But yeah, we'll get Cyrene in the future. She'll be amazing as always. She was the best character in Theoros for me. Well, not the best character. Potentially the best character, but she is my favorite character in Theoros to me, and I love her to death. All right. Let me go ahead and wrap the stream up. So thank you guys so much for coming in. Stevo, Danny Chuck, and Sage, it is always a pleasure to discuss with you all. My hair is completely horrible. I don't know why you guys didn't tell me. How dare you? Hold on. God damn, my hair is not cooperating today. Holy shit. But thank you guys so much for coming in. It is always a joy to discuss with all of you. As I mentioned, the next stream is going to be back to Zenless. We'll be doing that early next week, so I'll be taking tomorrow off, and we will be continuing with where we left off. So we have a lot of commissions to do. We'll do the commissions. We'll do any agent stories that we unlocked, and then we'll go back into the main story. So it should be a good time. So unfortunately, probably no Star Rail for the foreseeable future until 3.6 comes out, unless there's something that comes out like a trailer of some kind. We'll probably react to the Ceradra trailer when that comes out, so you can expect that. So that'll be fun. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It was a great time as always. Hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is for you, however you may be listening. And I will see you guys next time. Peace, light, and take care, guys.